As Tawera Carbarlo sends a box kick back up just outside the 22, and it's gone out into touch, and a very early opportunity here, Bernard, for Leinster to launch a promising attack right on the 22, just inside it, I should say. 42 seconds on the clock, but that was a real mistake early on there from La Rochelle.
Yeah, Leeds is usually very good under the high ball, and he just didn't control it. Maybe he lost it in the sun, but from there they were scrambling, and eventually they found touch just on the 22. Great opportunity for Leinster to launch from here. And
Devin Toner goes up in the middle of the line-out and takes and pops it down to Luke McGrath, and out to Jack Conan, to Robbie Henshaw, who carries hard and brings play just outside the 22. Ball back inside, and another hard carry again. Leinster just outside the 22, moving back in field. James Ryan with a short little burst, and he's tackled by Wian Liebenberg as Leinster drift out towards this near touchline. James Lowe with the ball in hand, and he's brought to ground by Geoffrey Dumaroux. Luke McGrath now sends it back out towards the left into the hands of Jack Conan, who's tackled well and brought to ground, and James Ryan does well to get over and support Ross Byrne out to Kelleher. Kelleher swallowed up, still possession just outside the 22. Leinster moving it back out towards this left touchline. Byrne zips it past outside now, and it goes to Max Deegan, and Jordan Larmour carries, and he's tackled 5 metres out from the far touchline, just outside the 22 again. Leinster really just working from left to right. Penalty advantage coming 15 in from the far touchline, and Robbie Henshaw tries a little grubber kick through, but the tackler hadn't rolled away. We're coming back for the advantage. Penalised is the La Rochelle loose prop, Rada Wardy, and it's an early opportunity, Bernard, for Ross Byrne to maybe dust off a few of the cobwebs and have a kick at goal and potentially put Leinster into an early lead.
Yeah, some really good defence from La Rochelle. 2 men hits, being very physical over the ball and trying to slow Leinster's ruck ball down. Leinster actually went backwards from where the line-out started. Devin Toner got great ball off the top, and they tried to punch holes, but La Rochelle, we know they're very physical and powerful, and they stood firm. But eventually, I think on the 7th or 8th phase, they get done for not rolling away, and great opportunity for Ross Byrne just to settle everyone down and get 3 points.
Yeah, so Byrne is about 16 metres in from the far touchline, just outside the 22. 37 points to his name across the opening 3 matches of the competition. Leinster, of course, having only played 3, as have La Rochelle. One of their pool games postponed or cancelled due to COVID-19, as well as Leinster's last 16 meeting with Toulon. So both of these sides into the last 4, having only played 3 matches. A big departure from what we're used to. Be 7 games down at this stage as we wait for Ross Byrne to stand over this kick. As we said, 16 metres in from the far touchline and about 24 metres out from goal. Certainly well within Ross Byrne's range, and he steps up right-footed and kicks, and it has just about drifted to the far side of the post, and it's gone wide. And Ross Byrne, not the start he would have wanted, Bernard.
No, so unlike him, he's usually so accurate. And yeah, that's that type of kick in that position is usually meat and drink to him. So look, he has lots of experience, 100 cap. He'll settle down. Leinster just want to make sure that they continue to play good territory and occupy La Rochelle's half.
22 dropout now. The first time La Rochelle had the ball in their hand. Ohio West kicks it out and just sends it deep down towards the 10-metre line, where Luke McGrath pops it to Robbie Henshaw, and he carries up through midfield. Leinster 10 metres inside their own half. Ross Byrne now going towards the left. James Lowe skips it out to Jordan Larmour, who brings possession into the La Rochelle half of the pitch, and Luke McGrath swallowed up brilliantly there by Will Skelton, who absolutely demolishes him, but Leinster do well to recover the ball and get it out to Devin Toner right on the halfway line, 10 metres in from the far touchline. A La Rochelle player getting in over it, trying to get his hands on the ball, but Leinster looked like they were just about getting the ball back, but the penalty advantage was coming, and it was Levani Bottia, I think, who is the man penalised for not rolling away or having his hands on the ball in there. And a chance for Ross Byrne to kick it back down into La Rochelle territory. This penalty right on the halfway line, 15 metres in from the near touchline, and Byrne going to send it right-footed, hopefully down into La Rochelle territory again.
Yeah, I think Leinster need to be careful in terms of the ball protection at the back of the breakdown. We saw last week Munster being very aggressive at the breakdown, huge amount of pressure on Hugh Sullivan, and we just saw there Will Skelton coming around, the ball was out, it wasn't protected very well, and putting in a huge hit on Luke McGrath, and probably from there Leinster on the back foot, and Bottia would be pretty annoyed that he gave away that penalty. He thought he was in a good jackal position. Yeah,
and Ross Byrne kicked it down into the La Rochelle 22 as Leinster went to Devin Toner with that line out. He popped it down to Jack Conan. Another penalty in the end to Leinster. They tried to go, just drifted back in towards this towards the blind side into Jack Conan's hands, but in the end it was Winnie Antonio who was judged to have either a deliberate knock on there, Bernard, or else he was just offside in the build-up to it. But it is another penalty to Leinster, and again, they're just going to pump this down and get even closer to the La Rochelle try line.
Yeah, Leinster obviously felt there was a bit of space down the front and tried a front peel. Antonio, I think it was a deliberate knock on, but again, just poor discipline. I mean, there's 3 penalties after 5 minutes, and Matthew Cardy will be starting to get a little bit frustrated with La Rochelle.
And this is the biggest chance so far now. 5 metres out, line out thrown into the hands of Rhys Ruddock, as Josh van der Fleer has it now at the back of this maul, but it's brought to ground well by La Rochelle and defended well as it's popped out to Cian Healy. 5 metres out from the try line, 5 metres in from the far touchline, and another penalty advantage it looks like is coming. Yeah, Matthew Carley has his hand out, so a 4th penalty is on the way here for Leinster, and they can have a free crack here as Luke McGrath skips it out to Robbie Henshaw, out to Byrne, who gives it to James Lowe, and it's skipped outside to Jordan Larmour, who just about spills it, and we are going to come back all over again for this penalty. Number 2 is penalised, who is Pierre Bourgarit. And a 4th penalty so far inside this opening 6 minutes. Matthew Carley has called time off, and he's going to be speaking to the captain, Roman Sazi, about the extent of penalties La Rochelle are giving away in these opening stages. And Bernard, I know you said they were defending brilliantly and getting into the face of Leinster, but this discipline's all over the place.
Yeah, and this is the fear with a team who doesn't have that level of experience. The occasion is so great for them, the excitement, and they want to make things happen early. Where Leinster have been pretty cool, calm and collected. Leinster actually aren't going to kick the touch, they're going to do their tap and go. So I'll go back to you.
Ronan Keller has it with James Ryan and Rhys Ruddock in support from Devin Toner just outside as well. And Keller goes and drives and gets it up to within 2 metres of the line. Cian Healy now picks and goes and gets even closer. Leinster just about a yard or so short. James Ryan is the man who has his hands there ready for it. Rhys Ruddock goes again as they get up towards that try line, drifting back in field once again, and they think they're over it. They're not, though. They're not. Luke McGrath has it. Again, they dive towards the line. Held up once more, going back towards the left. Luke McGrath, he has numbers outside towards the right. If he can use it, Ross Byrne into Gary Ringrose's hands, and he's always tackled brilliantly there by Raymond Rule, but he manages to get back up off the ground. Levani Bottia gets in over him as well, and another penalty, and it's a yellow card already coming for a La Rochelle player. And if we can just see who it's been given to, it is a yellow card that's been given. A penalty Leinster just out from the try line. Number 7, and it is Wian Liebenberg who's going to the bin for 10 minutes. With 7.5 minutes played so far, still scoreless. But that's 6 La Rochelle penalties given away inside the opening 7 minutes, and they're down to 14 men for the next 10.
Yeah, and Leinster going to tap a go again. They're looking to go for the juggler here with obviously 14 men, 7 gone off, and Keller taps it and smashes into the La Rochelle defence.
He taps and goes, and he's held up, but another drive towards the try line as they get really, really close. They're only about 6 inches short this time round. As Rhys Ruddock prepares to pick and go, moving back in towards the goal post. He's got the post protector in line as he gets to within about 3 or 4 inches. Next up is Tadhg Furlong getting over, and Tadhg Furlong is over the line, and Tadhg Furlong has scored a try. And Leinster's pressure pays after 8.5 minutes. They've their opening try of the game, and they lead La Rochelle by 5 points to 0.
Yeah, brilliant work by the Leinster pack, just so well drilled. Nobody panicking, getting good balance between speed of pick and go and also being set with a pre-latch, and eventually it was Tadhg Furlong, who looked so explosive from a metre out. Rhys Ruddock was caught just short, and then Furlong takes responsibility, and with Josh van der Fleer in behind him, smashes over the line. And yeah, what a start from Leinster. They missed a penalty kick from Ross Byrne, but now they find themselves 7-0 up.
Yeah, Ross Byrne directly in front of the post, had no issues with that conversion, slotted straight between the sticks. So as the clock strikes 9 minutes, it is Leinster who lead by 7 points to 0, with still 9 minutes left on that Wian Liebenberg yellow card. Just going back to those pick and goes, Bernard, Leinster obviously had gone to the line a couple of times first of all before deciding to give it to Ronan Keller to pick and go. It's something that has crept massively back into the game in the last few months. Would you be a fan of it?
Yeah, look, I think it's very hard to stop from a defensive team, and I know that the trial laws in the Pro 14 mean if you're held up over the line, it's a goal line dropout, which is a little bit more of a help to the defence. But we saw there Leinster were on a penalty advantage pretty much straight away, and that's what forced Liebenberg to go off. It's very hard to defend it without giving away a penalty, without creeping up the ruck, and it's an area that Leinster are exploiting probably as good as anyone in the league now. So it's up to the lawmakers to make it more easier to defend.
And IOS kicks it deep down into the Leinster 22 as Leinster retain possession, and Rhys Ruddock carries it in field about 15 metres out from his own try line. Devin Toner getting in to just give Luke McGrath a little bit of protection. Roman Sazi trying to get him out the way, but he wasn't budging. And a box kick from Luke McGrath sends it up to about 45 metres out from the Leinster try line, which Brice Doolan takes, and he's tackled well by Jordan Larmour. Greg Aldred now getting his hands on the ball for the first time in the game. Presents it back as they move back out towards the right. High West just sends it Gary Owen up into the air to around 5-10 metres inside the Leinster half of the pitch as Gary Ringrose went up to take, and it looked like he'd spilled it on. Referee says it went backwards off a La Rochelle hand, so we're going to play on. 5 metres inside the Leinster half of the pitch, ball centre of the pitch, and Doolan again drives it left-footed down towards the Leinster 22, and Luke McGrath goes up to take it, but he knocks it on, or he spills it backwards, I should say, and Jack Conan got it into his hands, but he had a foot in touch as Jack Conan just tried to kick it. Knock on first is the call from Matt Carley, actually. So we're going to come back for this scrum. 5-6 metres inside in from this near touch line, about 10-12 metres inside the Leinster half of the pitch.
Yeah, that's the beauty of having Brice Doolan as your fullback, having a midfield ruck. They had West on the right and Doolan on the left, and he put up a pretty difficult Gary Owen to catch, and I think Luke McGrath struggled under a good kick chase from La Rochelle. So La Rochelle now have a scrum in Leinster half, and it's the first actually set piece they've had, the first real possession they've had. So it'll be interesting to see who shows any dominance at this scrum, or can La Rochelle get Botty running at Ross Byrne as we predicted before the game.
Yeah, and particularly big pressure on Cian Healy for this scrum as well, as we saw that tight side of the La Rochelle scrum at Weenie Antonio, and Will Skelton went through the Sale Shark scrum like cheese wire the last day, cutting right through them. And the ball is popped in, and Leinster holding up their end of the bargain anyway so far. Not much movement in that scrum. It stays firm, and Tuera Carbarlo breaks and goes right, and he just gets a skip on Luke McGrath and gains an extra few yards before he's tackled and brought to ground. Greg Aldred now, as La Rochelle move things up towards the Leinster 22, moving back in field. Sending a pass out towards the right. Tuera Carbarlo again into Weenie Antonio's hands as he's brought to ground, and they're going back towards the right. Josh van der Fleer manages to get over that ball, and he's turned it over, and Leinster have possession just inside their own 22 now. Excellent turnover from Josh van der Fleer, leading the team so far in this championship. That's his fifth turnover in 4 games, as Leinster just pick and go for a couple of rounds and pass it back out to Luke McGrath, and it's going to be the left foot of James Lowe that drives possession and drives the ball right up towards the halfway line. Leinster clearing their lines with a good touch there from James Lowe, but an excellent turnover once again from Josh van der Fleer, Bernard. Yeah,
an excellent turnover. The scrum launch was 9, just getting into that 10 channel. The scrum had popped up, so very hard to see who has dominance there, but La Rochelle were starting to get over the gain line. That's where they're strong, their individual carries, and even with 14 men, they were creeping their way into the Leinster 22. But a great turnover from Josh van der Fleer, and a very good exit from James Lowe as well. Leinster do use his left foot to get him out of trouble, and he's found a really good touch and just relieve the pressure.
Brief little break in play as Weenie Antonio gets a little bit of medical treatment. And just to reference back to that scrum we mentioned, La Rochelle having their first platform, I spoke about how against Sale they just absolutely butchered them up front, and referencing specifically Weenie Antonio and Will Skelton. The sheer amount of size on that tight side of the scrum, there's going to be huge pressure on Cian Healy today to hold up his end of the bargain. No, absolutely. And we saw there he didn't give, and Antonio popped up, and Antonio's actually getting a little bit of treatment now on his calf, which could be a huge boost for Leinster if he has to go off. But I think Leinster scrum has made massive strides since that Saracens game, and Kelleher is a huge influence. He didn't start against Saracens. He's a big scrummage and hooker, and that adds to it. And himself, Cian Healy and Tyke Furlong, with James Ryan and Devin Toner behind, are a very good front five. They might lack the sheer kilos of La Rochelle, but in terms of technique and strength, I don't think they'll crack. They crack to the extent that they did before. Is that why Devin Toner is in there today, just to have that extra bit of meat in the scrum and that extra bit of weight? Yeah, I think so, and I think it's a nice balance to have Ryan Baird and Fardy to come off the bench. But Dev gives you a great line-out option, but also a decent scrummager as well. And line-out right on the halfway line for La Rochelle, and Burgerid finds Victor Vito as they set up a maul 5 metres inside from the far touchline, just inside the Leinster half of the pitch. Burgerid with the ball at the back, and they're making excellent progress with this, driving at 6, 7, 8 metres. Before Leinster eventually stall it up, and penalty advantage coming La Rochelle's way before Burgerid eventually breaks ground and is tackled and brought to the floor. Will Skelton now with a huge carry getting over the gain line, 2 or 3 extra metres as it skipped outside to West, and a lovely little chipped ball in over the top, which is taken by Gary Ringrose. But we are going to come all the way back for that penalty, and a fine bit of set piece work there from La Rochelle. Bernard setting up the maul off the off the back of that line out, and Leinster really were having trouble stopping that.
Yeah, that's really impressive, especially with Liebenberg in the bin. It was motoring forward, and Bougerie broke away. He's a very good hooker, very dynamic. The battle between himself and Kelleher would be really, really interesting. Then we saw Will Skelton, carrying off 9, and he's a player who gave Leinster lots of trouble when he was with Saracens, and he's really, I suppose, bought into this whole La Rochelle team, and being a great signing. It was interesting as well, from the advantage they went for a little chip over the top. The way Leinster defend, they don't have anyone in that safety line, in that secondary line, and it's everybody's responsibility to cover the chip. And we saw Gary Ringrose reading the cue from West that he was going to chip it, and got back and tapped it up. But obviously something that O'Gara and John O'Gibbs have spotted as being a potential weakness.
Yeah, and West is certainly feeling confident anyway, because he's going to have a crack at this kick here, which is about 10 metres inside the Leinster half, but way out, just about 3 or 4 metres in from the far right touchline. So it's going to be quite some distance. You're talking probably the guts of 50 metres at the angle. And for a man who did not kick particularly well against Sale, or throughout this tournament as well, just 10 of 17 so far. He's 57% off the tee. The ex-Hurricane and former New Zealand Maori. But he's going to have a crack at this to cut the gap, and probably as well just to shave a minute or so extra off the Pierre or the Wian Liebenberg yellow card. But he steps up and he struck that one well, and that's actually going straight towards the post, and it's gone over, and that's an excellent kick for La Rochelle, and they cut the gap down to 4. 15 minutes on the clock here, and it's Leinster leading by 7 points to 3.
Yeah, really good response to that try and yellow card from La Rochelle, just getting some territory, forcing the penalty through their maul, and obviously eating up a little bit of the clock as well. So 3 minutes left on the yellow card. So last time, the start of the game, they didn't deal with the restart well. They'll be looking for a much cleaner exit now.
And the referee just getting a bit of running repairs on his either his GPS tracker or his communication device. He's gone silent there, as we can hear. We can't really hear too much of him. But he's all set to go. Referee Matt Carley of England, as Leinster prepared to get us back underway with 15 minutes played here at Stade Marcel Deflandre. Leinster leading 7 points to 3 as they look to book a 6th Heineken Champions Cup final against Toulouse, where hopefully they'll be putting a 5th star on the jersey. Currently level with Toulouse actually as well on 4 titles. So we could potentially have someone going out in front. And again, the kickoff is spilled by Dylan Lades. He's lost in the sun again. It's picked up by James Lowe inside the La Rochelle 22, and Devin Toner misplaced the pass as Leinster lose an extra couple of yards, but they have the ball in possession just outside the La Rochelle 22. Luke McGrath just popping it back inside to Tyg Furlong, who's doing his level best to gain an extra bit of ground, but he manages to get an offload, and Hugo Keenan carries now. But again, Leinster losing in just a half yard or so, as Bottia slowed to get back, just slowed Leinster up there. Luke McGrath going back out towards the right again. Furlong, this time he manages to eke out an extra few inches right on the 22 here. Leinster moving it back infield where Healy has it. Healy is stopped by Weenie Antonio, and Pierre Burgery makes an excellent turnover in the tackle and manages to rip that ball out of Keane Healy's hands, and they get it back to Brice Doolan, who kicks it and it's blocked, and Luke McGrath has it, and Tyg Furlong now. Leinster back in possession just outside the 22. And it's held up in a penalty here now for La Rochelle. And it was Tawera Carbarlo, the scrum half, who manages to get his hands in over that ball, after the carry from, I think it was Jordan Larmour. And it's a penalty for La Rochelle and a chance to clear their lines. With Bernard, a pretty frantic few phases there from both sides in attack.
Yeah, terrible from Dylan Lades. He's dropped another kickoff and put La Rochelle in all kinds of trouble. And then they managed to get the ball back. A great strip from Bougerie on Keane Healy. And Brice Doolan tries to kick when he was very unlikely to get it away. Great kick pressure, I think, from Van der Fleer. And Leinster were a little bit lost, and Carbarlo gets a turnover. But yeah, the sun, they're just showing on the big screen here, the sun is in his eyes, in fairness to him, but he's not under huge pressure because Leinster kicking long, so La Rochelle will be so relieved to get away from here without conceding points, having made 2 big errors. It was Jack Conan actually who got to Doolan. Great diving block from him.
Yeah, certainly a big let off from Dylan Lade's point of view, because when he spilled it, it was straight into the hands of James Lowe, who they just about managed to tackle. But they've cleared this penalty now into the Leinster half of the pitch, about 3 or 4 metres, as they send it towards the back to their captain, Roman Sazi. And Pierre Burgery breaks from the back and he's tackled by Ronan Keller, but he gets back up off the ground. Referee says he was okay to do that. Aldred now. Aldred is tackled by Rhys Ruddock in midfield as La Rochelle skip it out towards the right, and they get it out to Dylan Lades now, who's kind of have in possession really for the first time in this game as they get up towards the 22 Ohio West. Back to Bottia as they go out to Raymond Rule now, who's drifted in field and skips a big one outside to Victor Vito, the World Cup winner, former All Black. Inside the Leinster 22, drifting back in from left to right, Greg Aldrich carries. Carbarla goes towards the right to Will Skelton, who's stopped really well by Josh van der Fleer and actually driven back, but he managed to get an offload to Carbarla, who gives it to Vito. And Rhys Ruddock makes the tackle. La Rochelle still just inside this Leinster 22, and they're going for another drop goal, Ohio West, as they look to just peel off the remaining little bit of time and pick off 3 points with the drop goal in this sin bin, and they've done so. And the gap is down to 6 points to 7. It is a 1-point game as La Rochelle prepare to come back up to 15 men. Clever bit of play from La Rochelle, just picking off that extra score.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be West's natural game. He's more of an instinctive player, but
he didn't even strike it too well.
No, they got great field position, just left-hand side of the post, inside the 22, and that's really smart game management. That's something you'd expect Leinster to do, but well done, EA West. And
Ross Byrne sends it right down Dylan Lade's channel once again, but this time the former Springbok does catch it and set up a La Rochelle possession as Greg Aldred is tackled really, really well by Jack Conan, who drives him back an extra couple of yards, and West clears the lines from just outside his own try line and sends a big kick down 10 metres inside the Leinster half, where Hugo Keenan gets it now, and he's going to have a counter-attack and brings possession 10 metres inside the La Rochelle half. He's tackled, La Rochelle still holding on, but they release him. Luke McGrath going back out towards the right infield to Toner. Toner dummies and just brings the ball into contact, where Luke McGrath has it again at the back and he's digging for it. It's not available at the moment, and it's a penalty advantage coming Leinster's way as they go towards the left. Ross Byrne skips Rhys Ruddock out to James Lowe on the far touchline. Offload into the hands of Robbie Henshaw, who throws an offload himself, but it's gone to a La Rochelle hand, and we're going to come back for this penalty advantage, a penalty for Leinster, 10 metres inside the La Rochelle half of the pitch.
Yeah, it came from a good carry from Devin Toner. He was looking to play it out the backs, but he saw Bottia in his eye line, who was blitzing up from the outside, and from that Will Skelton, I think, went off his feet, and that's just the issue for La Rochelle. They need to slow Leinster's ball down. They absolutely need to contest the rucks, but they need to listen to Matthew Cardy, because he's telling them to release it, and you just got to play the referee there, and there's no point, even if you think you're in a good position, continue to hold on as Will Skelton did there and give Ross Byrne a good opportunity to put Leinster 4 points up.
Yeah, Byrne is going to have a kick at goal here. He's 40 metres out, ever so slightly to the left of the post. 1 out of 2 so far. The one he made directly in front of the post, that conversion after Tyg Furlong's try. The one he missed was a little bit further out towards the right, but much closer to the post, and one he'd probably like to have back. But a chance for him now to put Leinster's lead back out to 4 points. Not long after Ohio West's drop goal had cut the lead down to 1. But as we can see, around 41 metres out from goal, ever so slightly to the left of the posts. Ross Byrne with 39 points so far to his name in the competition, as we said, on his 100th appearance for the province, and he struck that one much better than the penalty he missed early on. It's straight between the posts, so Leinster's lead is back up to 4. They're 10 points to 6 in front here against La Rochelle with 21 minutes played at Stade Marcel Deflandre.
Yeah, that's a much better kick from Ross Byrne. Split the post, and he's had a sighter now, and you'd expect him to convert any opportunities La Rochelle give him to add points, and Leinster will look to play that possession-based game and force the errors out of La Rochelle at the breakdown.
Midway through the first half, and as we said a couple of minutes ago, La Rochelle back to 15 players, back to a full complement after Ian Liebenberg returns to the pitch. He was sin-binned in the lead up to Tyg Furlong's try after La Rochelle gave away 6 penalties inside the opening 7 minutes. They've only given away 1 since then, as Leinster retain possession off this kick out inside their own half, and they're looking to go wide with it here now, but James Lowe is tackled really well, holds onto it for just enough time to get the Leinster support in. But Luke McGrath is having trouble digging this one out. Eventually he does, and out to Ross Byrne, who pops it back inside to one of the heavies to carry, and Luke McGrath goes towards the left. Robbie Henshaw now, and ekes his way just outside the 22, right on the far touchline, as they come back in towards the centre of the pitch. Cian Healy places it back for Luke McGrath, who looks like he's preparing to kick. James Lowe and Tyg Furlong in just to create a little bit of a caterpillar. Will Skelton tried to dive in and block it, but Luke McGrath got his kick away and sends possession up towards the halfway line, about 45 metres out from Leinster's try line on the far touchline. Leinster eventually clearing the lines. Leinster looking to use that ball and try to get it out a little bit wide there a couple of seconds ago.
Yeah, it's risky. We saw Bodia come flying in, make a huge hit there. As I said, Lades was very high. If they can get around that, there's a lot of ground to be made. But the most important thing is they look after the ball, and they did there. So when they got to the far side of the field and they weren't going forward, they decided to exit, and now they put pressure on the line out, and so they restart now with a scrum very close to the halfway because the ball wasn't thrown straight. So smart play from Leinster, getting to play high ball and play time, but also test that La Rochelle defence on the edge. Yeah,
crooked line out, and absolutely no doubt about it there. It was even a stretch for Will Skelton off towards his own side of the his own side of the line out. So it's going to be a scrum. Leinster about 15 metres in from the far touchline, just inside their own half of the pitch. They held up their end well on the opening scrum of the game, in a similar position just towards the near touchline when La Rochelle had possession. But this their first platform now from the scrum where they're putting in, and we're just going to reset it here as the front rows get a talking to. Cian Healy told to sit on the outside shoulder. Matt Carley just setting down the rules to the front rows. All well on the opening scrum of the game. Not much movement in it, both sides staying up as Luke McGrath prepares to feed. Captain for the day in the place of Johnny Sexton. He was rested last week as well, Luke McGrath. Just the second game this season he's missed as that scrum collapsed to the ground, and it's a free kick to Leinster for an early shove from La Rochelle, and Jack Conan picks and goes and gets possession up towards the halfway line as Luke McGrath passes it out to Ross Byrne into Gary Ringrose, who manages to find some space and gains 10-15 yards and brings it up to 10 metres inside the La Rochelle half of the pitch. Ross Byrne now steps inside before he's swallowed up in the tackle as McGrath comes back towards this right side again. Leinster with another short carry. Looked like the ball might have been spilled there, but we're going to play on Tyg Furlong now as we move back in field. About 7-8 metres inside the La Rochelle half of the pitch. Jack Conan the latest to carry, and he's tackled well by Vito, who tried to get over the ball, and another penalty advantage coming Leinster's way, and the La Rochelle in discipline is once again costing them as they tried to skip that ball out with the penalty advantage coming, and still in possession as Jordan Larmour tries to jink his way left and right as they get 7-8 metres back inside this La Rochelle half of the pitch. They haven't really gained anywhere in terms of yards going through the phases. Cian Healy now. Healy, as the Leinster move back in towards the left, in towards the centre of the pitch, and Ross Byrne is just going to try chip one in over the top, and it's potentially setting up well for James Lowe, and it just bounces over his head as he was running onto it. Great idea from Ross Byrne, and it looked like an excellent execution. But as we see, Bernard, a rugby ball hops a little bit strange every now and again. We're going to come back for this Leinster penalty.
Yeah, and Ross Byrne is usually able to control the bounce on most of the time as well. But that's exactly what I spoke about before the game. You know, that's the weakness of the La Rochelle defence. Lades and Rule are so high up, they're so aggressive, and there is space in behind. And if that ball could have bounced to James Lowe, he would have had a one-on-one with Brees Doolan with no one really covering. So it was perfect for Ross Byrne. It was on a penalty advantage, but certainly that's an area that I think they will look to go after. Having said that, defensively, La Rochelle will be very comfortable in terms of their ability to stop Leinster's power forwards. Leinster actually aren't really getting gain line. The only time they've made a little half break was Gary Ringrose going against the grain, but their forward carriers are pretty much getting met on the gain line. Unfortunately for La Rochelle, they're just over enthusiastic at the breakdown and giving away such soft penalties when they're not really realistic jackal opportunities.
Yeah, the only real times that Leinster have got too far over the gain line, aside from those early phases in the opening half, were, as you said, that little line break from Cian Healy, the clear daylight breaks, as you'd probably call it. But Ross Byrne now is going to have another kick at this in a roughly similar distance-wise to the one he nailed a few minutes ago, but this one straight in front of the post, about 45 metres out. He's 2 from 3 so far. Leinster leading by 4, 10 points to 6 here, with 26 minutes played at Stade Marcel Deflandre. Ross Byrne looking to add his second penalty of the afternoon on top of the conversion, and he struck this one well again, and he has the distance and he has the accuracy, and it's gone between the posts. And curious to see as well, Bernard, is there a change coming from Leinster? Because just a moment ago we saw Ryan Baird getting prepared to come onto the pitch. He was getting the spray put onto his hands. He was togged off. I hadn't seen any Leinster players down injured, and I haven't seen Ryan Baird come onto the pitch just yet.
But
interesting to see if there's a change being made.
Yeah, and obviously he could come on in the second row or in the back row at 6. It depends on how Leo wants to use it. Again, we didn't see Rhys Ruddock is still out there anyway, so and he looks to be fine. Devon Toner's still out there, and we're just waiting to see if they make that change.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't seem to have happened yet, as La Rochelle send that restart down towards the Leinster 22, towards this near touchline, as James Ryan carries and brings possession up towards the edge of the 22. Luke McGrath looking for a little bit of space before sending a box kick. Bergerie tried to get up and block it, but McGrath sends it down towards the halfway line, where Victor Vito takes, and it's a good kick chase and tackle in the end by Jordan Larmour, who stops Victor Vito just inside the Leinster half of the pitch. And that's a brilliant turnover from Tadhg Furlong, it was, who got in over the top of Victor Vito and managed to get his hands on that ball. And in the end, it was Jeffrey Dumaru who was penalised, the outside centre. Excellent work by Tadhg Furlong, not just even for the second part of getting in over that ball, but the kick chase as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been in great form, to be honest, and I know there's a lot of speculation about his contract and his future, but look, I think he's a key man for Ireland and Leinster, and I'd be shocked if he left. But he's leading from the front here. He's part of this leadership group. He's so physical, and there was a huge turnover for Leinster. Just shown on the replay there, he got in over Victor Vito and managed to get a clear lift, which is obviously what referees are looking for, and presented a good body position.
And Ryan Baird is onto the pitch now in place of Rhys Ruddock, so unless it was an injury, Rhys Ruddock seemed to be doing just fine. But Ross Byrne, they win that line out and skip it out to James Lowe now as they end up towards the 22, and James Lowe has just managed to evade a tackle as Leinster bring it into the 22, far touchline. Hugo Keenan steps in at scrum half and puts it out to Devon Toner, who stopped well in a tackle and driven back half a yard. Again, La Rochelle really high up in that defence and pushing Leinster. James Ryan goes out the back door to Robbie Henshaw, who manages to half make a break, and Will Skelton is cleared out. Luke McGrath going towards the right, pops back inside from Ross Byrne to Gary Ringrose, into Jordan Larmour, again who steps back in field, and Leinster are still just struggling to get over that gain line, going back a couple of yards. Ryan Baird in possession of the ball now for the first time since coming on a few seconds ago. He's held up. Again, Leinster moving out towards the left. Ross Byrne up towards the line. James Ryan is complaining. Luke McGrath sends it back out to Jack Conan with a hard carry and gets over the gain line as they edge towards the 22. Cian Healy now the next to carry, but he's stopped well, as La Rochelle are continuing to slow up this Leinster attack, who aren't gaining too much ground and are struggling to get back into the 22. And in the end, it's a La Rochelle turnover. It was excellent work in defence. Leinster couldn't get past that gain line, and Pierre Bergerie it was again making a big turnover. And as you mentioned, Bernard, Leinster are just struggling to win those collisions.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's the power, and that's something that Leinster don't come up against, week in, week out in the Pro 14. They're usually getting over the gain line probably 4 out of every 5 rucks, and here we're seeing them just getting stopped dead in contact. James Ryan's getting a little bit of treatment now. I know they want to play high ball and play ball and hand time and fatigue La Rochelle, but I think they need to maybe look at where that kick space is. In behind and put pressure on Doolan in the backfield. They're really keeping it in the hand, and it's given La Rochelle a little bit of energy when they get those key turnovers like that, when they make those impact tackles. So I'd imagine that's something that Stuart Lancaster will be getting on to Ross Byrne, Luke McGrath in terms of, if you're not going forward after 3 or 4 phases, attack space in the backfield and try and turn La Rochelle.
30 minutes played here at Stade Marcel Deflandre, and it's Leinster leading La Rochelle 13 points to 6 in this Heineken Champions Cup semi-final. Toulouse awaiting the winners of this in the decider on the 22nd of May at Twickenham Stadium in the final. Coming up later on Off the Ball at 4:30, we'll be bringing you live commentary at 4:30 kickoff. We'll be a little bit late getting to it. Whenever this Leinster match finishes, we'll be straight over to Old Trafford for as much as we can of Manchester United and Liverpool in the Premier League with Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr, where Manchester United have to win to keep alive, or if Liverpool win, they would see Man City crowned as Premier League champions once again, as La Rochelle get a huge bit of ground off that penalty and kick it down to just outside the Leinster 22, where they set up a line out on the far side of the pitch. Pierre Bergerie puts it up, and Will Skelton is lifted and takes it and pops it down anyhow west into Lavani Bottier, who we haven't seen with the ball in hand too much so far in this game. Leinster too slow to roll away, and a penalty is coming, and a penalty is given to La Rochelle. And just trying to pick out the Leinster player, it was Ross Byrne in the end who was penalised. Brave in the tackle, but he just didn't roll away on time.
Yeah, and what a soft 3 points this will be for La Rochelle. I mean, just off the top, straight at Bottier into the 10 channel, and because of the impact of the carry and trying to stop him dead, Ross Byrne just seems to get trapped and doesn't make, from what we saw, didn't make any real effort. So maybe just a little bit shocked. Ball off the front as well. It should be easy to get off the back and maybe someone else make that tackle rather than Ross Byrne, but we know Body, it takes a lot of stopping, and he did stop him dead, but unfortunately just got stuck there, and an easy penalty to give away for Matthew Cardy.
Yeah, we hadn't seen Body get his hands on the ball too many times in this opening half of the game so far in these first 31 minutes. Ross Byrne was certainly the target of that run from him, who's a man who's been at this club La Rochelle for a long time. He joined back in 2014, way back when they were in Pro D2, and has worked his way up he's now a European player nominee along with several La Rochelle teammates and a handful of those from Leinster as well, as he high west just prepares to take this kick at goal just outside the 22, just to the right of the post as well. On target so far with a long range penalty and a drop goal, and he struck that one simple as well. It was a very easy kick for him, and he's put it between the posts and cuts the gap back down to 4. It's La Rochelle 9 points, Leinster 13 with 32.5 minutes played.
Yeah, it's been unbelievably competitive, nip and tuck. Neither team have shown anything like their capabilities in attack. Both defences have been on top, and it's really, La Rochelle's ill-discipline that's allowed Leinster to get a lead.
And as much as La Rochelle have been indisciplined in defence, in attack they've been quite sensible. They've picked off points as much as they can when they've got into Leinster territory, just kind of keeping themselves ticking over in the game.
Absolutely, yeah, they'll be very conscious of just staying in the game and going in the half time, having competed with Leinster, and at the moment, unless Leinster pulls something out of the bag in the next 8 minutes, they'll be pretty happy with how they've started, and will back themselves to pick it up in the third quarter.
Yeah, and as we were speaking there, Tawera Kerr-Barlow, another ex-All Black in this La Rochelle team, their scrum half, just clearing the lines and sending possession midway between the 22 and 10 metre line on that far touchline line at Leinster, where it's come off the top and into the hands of Robbie Henshaw, who carries, and he's tackled by Liebenberg as Leinster go back towards the right, and Ross Byrne hands it off to James Lowe, who knocks on, and Raymond Rule scoops up and puts it into Brice Doolan's hands, and Dylan Lades is tackled by Devin Toner as they go back, and Brice Doolan ships it over the top, and it looks like it's going to sit up nicely for him. It does, and he's tackled well in the end and brought to ground 10 metres inside the Leinster half of the pitch, but Kerr-Barlow snips and breaks and gets them up towards the 22. La Rochelle on the counter-attack now. Bottier in at scrum half to West, and Rule is tackled by Devin Toner, and James Lowe tries to get in over it, but in the end La Rochelle retained possession. Greg Aldred breaks and once again gets beyond the gain line and into the 22, skips outside to Will Skelton. La Rochelle really stepping up the pressure and stepping up the pace, and another penalty advantage coming their way. Tawera Kerr-Barlow out to High West, who dummies the kick and pops it out to Raymond Rule. Raymond Rule is stopped. La Rochelle now 10 metres outside from the Leinster line towards this far touchline. Coming back infield, Weenie Antonio is tackled by Tyg Furlong. La Rochelle, huge pressure from them now. High West, they still have the advantage, and they kick over the top, and Jordan Larmour tries to tackle Victor Vito. In the end, he stopped, and La Rochelle up towards right 1 metre from the Leinster line on this near touch line. Driving back infield, they get up to just a couple of inches short now. Huge danger for Leinster here. La Rochelle again brought to ground as they drift back infield. Kerr-Barlow to West. La Rochelle going really wide here. They've got numbers over, and it's just sat up too long for Jeffrey Dumaroux. But in the end, he managed just to step inside, and they've lost a couple of yards. It looked like they had an overlap, but it was a bad pass that fell to ground. Kerr-Barlow now to Weenie Antonio. Tackled by James Ryan. La Rochelle coming back in field, and they've knocked on the ball in the end, but we've been playing advantage all along. And we're going to come back for a La Rochelle penalty straight in front of the post. But Bernard, that was a big let-off for Leinster. There were a couple of gilt-edged chances that La Rochelle failed to finish.
Yeah, that's how La Rochelle play, and when they get those power runners and the variety of their play. So started with a lovely chip over the top from Doolan, which he regathered. Leinster didn't get their first defender in place around the ruck. West spotted that, another big carry, and then the likes of Skelton punching holes, and they had a penalty advantage. Ahea West put a lovely crossfield kick into Victor Vito, who boshed his way past Larmour and was just held up just short. And then from the other wing, again on penalty advantage, if the ball had bounced up to Doolan properly, he would have been in, but it didn't. It bounced a little bit behind him, and Leinster got a chance to regather, and they'll be so relieved only to give away 3 points here. That was looking ominous, and that's a real sign of when La Rochelle get on the front foot, how hard it is to regain momentum.
Yeah, 3 points feels like a genuine result for Leinster rather than La Rochelle, given the way they were attacking there. But they are going to have a kick at goal and tap this over. It is a dead straight penalty in front of the post, about 10 metres out. Ohio West, who's 2 out of 2, make it 3 out of 3 if you want to throw the drop goal in on top of it as well. But he looks almost certain to peg this back to a 1-point game with 36 minutes played. Straight in front of the post, as we said. And he taps it over, and it's 12 points to 13 with 3.5 minutes to go in what has been a very back and forth first half. We've only had one try, but after a very, very slow start, La Rochelle have settled well. And you can really, really see, Bernard, the impact that a big, big front five and big collision winners is having on this match.
Yeah, absolutely. Once they get in behind Leinster, it's nearly impossible for Leinster to regain momentum, and that's certainly going to be worrying for them.
And once again, Byrne targets Dylan Leeds with this kick, and he's lost it completely again. You could see him, he had his hands up in the air trying to block the sun. He actually missed the ball completely, lost the side of it entirely. It went over his head, bounced out of play about a yard from the try line, and La Rochelle are going to be in possession of a line out just out from their own try line. But this sun is playing havoc, and it's going to be an issue for Leinster in the second half, Bernard.
Absolutely, and you'd wonder why they haven't put Doolan in there to maybe deal with that. Just Lade seems to be completely out of sorts. I know the sun is what's causing the trouble, but you definitely think you need to change that for the second half.
And La Rochelle went with a 3-man line-out in the end and have retained possession as they bring it back in field with Greg Aldred. But again, just 3-4 metres out from their own try line. And they're just going to take their chances and clear the lines here with Toera Carbarlo, who sends it out into touch and sends possession about 7-8 metres out from the La Rochelle 22. So with a couple of minutes left in this first half, an opportunity for Leinster to attack.
Yeah, this is key. This is usually where Leinster are very good. Just before half-time and just after half-time, they tend to put pressure on. So with a minute and a half left, it'd be interesting to see if they can launch something here, maybe get another penalty.
Ronan Keller throws it in to find Devin Toner in the line. Josh Fender-Fleer stands in at scrum half and brings possession out to Gary Ringrose in the centre of the field. Robbie Henshaw over him and supporting as they go back out towards this near touchline. James Lowe skips it out to Jordan Larmour. Jordan Larmour in towards the 22, and his pass inside went to Luke McGrath, and McGrath couldn't get his hands on it, and he knocks on in the end, and the opportunity is lost for Leinster. The La Rochelle defence was scrambling, but a brilliant bit of work had sent Jordan Larmour clear into the 22, and once again La Rochelle clear their lines to in between the 10-metre line and the 22, so Leinster will have another chance, but that was a huge opportunity, Bernard.
Massive opportunity. Great pass from James Lowe. He just fires it across Doolan. Larmour's in behind. He goes for
the DuPont line
to Luke McGrath. Unfortunately, just dies at his feet, and that's a big opportunity lost when it just took a more accurate pass to convert it.
Conan takes easily, and Robbie Henshaw finds Gary Ringrose as Leinster move possession in field and drifting out towards the far touchline now. Byrne out to Hugo Keenan, who breaks the first tackle and is stopped midway between the 22 and the 10-metre line. Out towards the right, Henshaw to Cian Healy now, and this is a couple of big collisions won by Leinster as they get up towards the 22. Luke McGrath to James Ryan, who's a little bit isolated and tackled by Will Skelton. Victor Vito tried to get in over it, and in the end the Leinster support players all came in and off their feet, and it's a La Rochelle penalty with 20 seconds left inside this first half. And that, Bernard, is the opportunity for Leinster to finish off this first half with a score done.
Yeah, and you said it. James Ryan was isolated. I mean, all the players the support players were on the other side. So either Leinster are just running out a bit of juice, and the size of this La Rochelle team is soaking it out of them, or Leinster basically have set up to go back down the blind side, and Luke McGrath picked the wrong option. But because they were isolated, they had to fly off their feet to get there because they were late, and it just blew a great field position and a great opportunity to maybe get some scores just before half time.
And it's La Rochelle's opportunity now as the Ohio West kicks it down into the Leinster half of the pitch, 13 metres or so inside the Leinster half on this near touchline. The clock officially in the red now, so the next time the ball goes out of play, we will be at half time. Actually got 5-man line out for La Rochelle here. Victor Vito, the jumping option at the front, with Roman Sazzi towards the back and Weenie Antonio. Leinster having Ryan Baird opposite Victor Vito in that front pod as they drift towards the back, and Vito goes up and takes it and pops it down to Kerr Barlow. as La Rochelle move it in field, and Will Skelton with a big carry gets beyond Robbie Henshaw, and in the end he's tackled by a combination of Jack Conan and Van der Fleer as La Rochelle go back towards the left and skip it out towards this near touchline. Raymond Rule tackled by Robbie Henshaw as La Rochelle itch their way maybe about 5-6 metres out from the Leinster 22 towards this near touchline. Kerr Barlow going back in field to Ohio West. Weenie Antonio, Will Skelton over to support as they go back towards the right. West now, Brees Doolan, who's tackled well by Gary Ringrose, who shot up, and Leinster have driven La Rochelle well back in these last few phases. La Rochelle continuing to attack though, 40 metres out from goal, just towards the right of the post in midfield. Kerr Barlow towards the left, out to his fellow Kiwi, Ohio West. On the home side, continuing to attack. Bottia now scrambles inside and gets just inside the 10-metre line, and Van der Fleer thought he was offside for a second and ended up letting the La Rochelle player skip inside and get his way up towards the 22. Will Skelton the next to carry. Greg Aldrich now. La Rochelle running through a number of phases to end this half. Clock still in the red. Pierre Bergerit brought to the ground. Van der Fleer tried to get in over, and that's a huge tackle by Gary Ringrose, I think it was, and has forced a knock on from the La Rochelle players. And Leinster could do well, to be honest, with just putting this ball out of play. James Lowe tries to chip over the top and sends it out towards into La Rochelle territory, and in the end it's Raymond Rule who just taps the ball out to let it go over the line, and that brings up the half-time whistle, where it's been a very, very interesting game so far. Leinster leading by 13 points to 12. It looked, Bernard, as if they were going to be off to an absolute flyer and could potentially kick on when, after a huge amount of pressure in the opening 7-8 minutes, Tyg Furlong got over for that try, which was converted by Ross Byrne to give them a 7-0 lead. But clever play from La Rochelle, just picking off a few scores here and there off the boot of Ohio West. He's got 3 penalties and a conversion so far. Ross Byrne has added a couple of penalties on top of his own conversion to leave Leinster 13 points to 12 in front. What do you make of that first 40, Bernard?
As a Leinster fan, I'm worried. We haven't got many opportunities to get inside their 22, and the most worrying thing is, I suppose, the maturity that La Rochelle have played with. You know, managed the yellow card really well, took the points under an offer via penalty and drop goal, but then when they get that initial burst of over the gain line, it just Leinster can't seem to be able to recover, and that's something that definitely will be worrying Stuart Lancaster and Leo Cullen.
Yeah, it certainly will. So we will be back for more in the second half of this Heineken Champions Cup semi-final. Toulouse awaiting the winners of Leinster and La Rochelle in the final. But right now, Owen Sheehan at Stade Marcel Deflandre. It is La Rochelle 12 points, Leinster 13.
Great stuff, Neil, Treacy and Bernard Jackman watching that game half-time there. It was due to be the first of 2 games live here on Off the Ball this afternoon. The second game was going to be in the Premier League. It was going to be Manchester United against Liverpool. That looks like an event that is increasingly unlikely to happen. The Premier League have confirmed that kickoff will be delayed. They have yet to specify if it will be played before the day is out. It is looking increasingly unlikely that they will be able to do so. Michael Oliver, the referee, has been turned away, basically, told to go away until the place is ready, until the fans have been cleared out, and until the stadium is safe. The players have been told the same thing. There is nobody at Old Trafford at the moment except for the media, who have also been told to go away, and an incredible amount of Manchester United fans, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them outside the ground where an anti-Glazer protest happened earlier on today. They blocked the team bus, they surrounded Gary Neville's car, they surrounded Michael Oliver's car, and a small bit of trouble outside. The fans then managed to enter the stadium. They get in through the megastore end of Old Trafford, where the stadium continues inside, and hundreds of those fans get onto the pitch. Corner flags are taken, kids are running around with the corner flags in their arms, fans are taking photos, they're taking videos of themselves with balls in hand and kicking the ball into the goals at Old Trafford. One guy threw up a ball and did a bicycle kick while videoing himself. There was people holding flares, green smoke flying everywhere inside an Old Trafford. These are incredible, incredible scenes. The protest around the Super League has not only failed to materialise and, fizzled out over the last little while, it has gone to a whole new level here at Old Trafford today. It is one of the most extraordinary things we've seen. So many questions about how on earth they managed to get into Old Trafford. I've seen journalists say today that Andy Hunter, specifically saying on the Guardian Live blog, that the security setup on how he was getting in was pretty strict, and that would raise questions as to how so many people were able to get inside. It is absolutely extraordinary, and it does not look like this game will happen. One thing I can tell you for sure is that it will not be a 4:30 kickoff. We will have Brian Kerr with us later on. We will have other voices from Manchester United and from people who are actually at Old Trafford and are at Old Trafford as we speak, so you won't miss a thing here. Thankfully, there is actual sport to focus on, because the second half of La Rochelle versus Leinster is coming up next.
La Rochelle versus Leinster, live from Stade Marcel Deflandre.
On Off the Ball. Show Me the Science with Professor Luke O'Neill.
A Newstalk original podcast series focusing on different issues, from the serious to the silly, all explained through science. Catch up on the podcast series at newstalk.com or on the Newstalk app.
Bosch, appliances you can rely on. For peace of mind, choose from Bosch's 5-year warranty range of cooking, laundry and refrigeration. For more information, go to powercity.ie.
The seasonal event is now on at TJ O'Mahony. Shop the Webb 4-in-1 petrol multi-tool, a cost-effective tool to keep on top of garden tasks throughout the season. Pair it with the Webb self-propelled lawnmower, powered by a Briggs & Stratton engine, and the Karcher K4 compact pressure washer, and you can consider it job done. Visit us online at tjomahony.ie or at your local TJ O'Mahony store.
Is your office supplies delivery taking too long? Would you like to buy from an Irish office supplies company who'll deliver to your home or business next day guaranteed? For stationery, furniture, PPE and more, visit igate.ie. Great prices and 5-star customer service with next day delivery. Switch to iGate today.
Why wait? Switch to iGate.
This isn't the time to be shy about striving for success. This is a time to act on ambition, to think bigger, go further, learn more. UCD is Ireland's #1 university for graduate employability, with master's degrees that open doors and mentors who will nurture, inspire and shape you professionally. Stand out on your own terms and set your own trajectory. Visit ucd.ie/masters. UCD. Think bigger.
The all-new Opel Mokka. Less run-of-the-mill, more turn heads, with a new dynamic appearance and Opel's visor front face. Less standard, more versatility, with ingenious cabin features, the stunning Opel Pure panel and smart connectivity. And less long journey, more arrive in style, with advanced luxury and premium driver comfort. The all-new Opel Mokka. Less normal, more Mokka. Introducing the new Opel. Discover the all-new Opel Mokka at opel.ie.
From Tuesday next, the 4th of May, we begin a new phase in our recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, starting with the full reopening of construction. Over the course of May, we will see a phased easing of restrictions, including travel outside of our counties, reopening of hairdressers and shops. Our galleries, museums, libraries and churches will all welcome people back. We will be able to plan our summer, and there will be other changes as we move through the month and into June. The theme of our summer 2021 is to think safe, think outdoors, while the vaccination programme continues to roll out. Following public health guidance, continuing to work from home and sticking to all of the safe behaviours, inside or outside, is now more important than ever to control the spread of the virus and help Ireland's recovery. Let's keep working together and keep moving forward. Find out all of the details at gov.ie/COVID-19. Supported by the Government of Ireland.
My, what white walls your rental has. Wouldn't it be a shame if someone drew all over them for no reason? And what do we have here? You're back living in your childhood bedroom, and all that 90s sci-fi memorabilia is starting to feel like a bit of a mood kill. Ready to move, but don't know where to start? Start here with EBS, the Mortgage Masters. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. EBS TAC is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
This summer, you can barbecue whatever the weather with George Foreman, the world's favourite grill. Discover the range today on powercity.ie.
Hi, I'm Niall Fitzharris of the Hazelhouse Cafe and Woodwork School. Yes, cafe and woodwork school. Like most business owners, I do lots of things at once. That's why I upgraded to Air Gigabit Fibre Broadband. Now I can offer click and collect, run our social media, video call and more. It's transformed my business. What could it do for yours?
For more about Air Gigabit Fibre Broadband, visit air.ie/business or call 1800 207 407. Air, let's make possible. Subject to availability. Offer applies to businesses with up to 9 employees.
Afternoons are easy with InsureMyVan.ie, Ireland's low-cost van insurance specialist. Get your business back on the road with InsureMyVan's best price guarantee. For super savings, visit InsureMyVan.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as InsureMyVan.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
La Rochelle versus Leinster, live from Stade Marcel Deflandre.
On Off the Ball.
You're welcome back. We will get back over to France very shortly indeed for the second half of what is turning out to be a cracker between Leinster and La Rochelle in the Heineken Champions Cup semi-final. The scenes at Old Trafford seem to have calmed down a little bit. It seems that everyone is off the pitch. There is still a lot of people around Old Trafford at this point. Kick-off has been delayed from 6:30 in that Premier League clash between the two sides. The Premier League aspirationally have penciled in 6:30 this evening as a potential kick-off time. We have seen pictures of Michael Oliver on television right now, looking incredulous as he's wearing his COVID mask, lurking near the tunnel, wondering, do I come onto the pitch, do I leave the pitch, what is going on? He obviously got there quite early and was turned away. The scenes outside are still pretty chaotic. There's still a lot of people outside. Again, this question about how on earth the Manchester United fans got in, there's a bit of clarity in Jamie Jackson's piece on The Guardian at the moment. He says that at just past 2 p.m, about 200 individuals are believed to have made their way into the stadium. It is believed those who gained access to the crowd did so via the Munich tunnel after pushing down barriers despite the attempts of security guards to prevent that happening. A large number of fans ran back out of the stadium complex at around 2:20. So things you'd imagine at this point have calmed down quite a bit. It'll be interesting to see if they do manage to get that game played after 6 o'clock this evening. There has been a game in the Premier League so far today. Arsenal beat 10-man Newcastle United 2-0, and then there was also the big one in Scotland, the Old Firm earlier on. Not an Old Firm of massive consequence, obviously, but Rangers did indeed beat Celtic comprehensively. 4-1 was the full-time score, and Stephen Gerrard was speaking afterwards.
Stephen, how pleasing was that today?
Yeah, look, it's a big rival. It's an important game. As I said before the game, doesn't matter when they fall or what's at stake in terms of the season. It was a really strong performance, and I said before the game I picked a real strong, bold team. You know, we needed Kamar, we needed Alfredo and Ryan to be the difference for us in the final third, and we've run away with it in the end.
Yeah, Kamar Roof was saying that he wanted to go and not necessarily prove a point, but make sure he was trying to build this consistency. Was that pleasing, his performance and his goals today?
Yeah, from a team's point of view, the consistency is always something that we keep striving for here, especially at home. Kamar's had a mixed few weeks in terms of how it's gone for him from a personal point of view, but he certainly responded in a fantastic way today. I thought he was certainly in the running for man of the match. His 2 goals were fantastic. Strikers' goals, his all-round build-up play was strong, and he played big for us today. And over the course of the season, we needed that type of firepower to add to Defoe, to add to Morelos and add to it, and over the season Kamaru certainly delivered.
You score a goal and Celtic go down to 10 men in the same incident. Did that make it easier or more difficult in terms of how to approach it after that?
I think it always makes it easier. I'm not gonna lie to you, but look, these games are always decided by big moments, and you've got to be focused and concentrated throughout over the 90 minutes, and you've got to make sure that the big moments go your way. It was a fantastic goal, and I thought the referee got the decisions right, because you know he's stopping at a promising attack. So we've worked for them moments, and the moments have gone in our favour, and that's what you need if you want to be on the winning side of an Old Firm.
Yeah, Alan McCoy's is upstairs. He was the last manager to manage a Rangers team that scored 4 against Celtic. Is that the manner as well, that how pleasing the amount of goals you scored to really hammer home the fact that you are the top dogs here?
Well, look, it's been a while, I think, since you've seen that scoreline. It's the likes of Ali and previous players and the success of this club that we're trying to respect that and try and add to that. And I'm sure Ali's really proud of the boys' performance over the season. I certainly am, and I'm sure there's a lot of ex-players and ex-managers that have just spoke to Alec McLeish inside, And they're the reason why it's so difficult to be at Rangers at the moment, because of the success and how good they were at doing their jobs on the pitch. And as managers, it's our job to add to it and keep working towards it and striving to be better, and you know, we'll continue to do that.
One downside, Bernard Jackman, how is he?
We'll check it out. He's got a tight quad at the moment. His assist for the goal was fantastic. He was up and down all day long, so hopefully it's just a bit of fatigue, but we'll check it out with an MRI scan, and fingers crossed it's not a big issue. But what I will say is Joe Aribo shows no ego. He slots in there, does a fantastic job for the team. So we're down to the bare bones in certain situations, in certain positions, but we've got honest lads who'll fill in and do a good job for the team.
Well done today.
Thank you.
Stephen Gerrard there speaking after Rangers' 4-1 win in the Old Firm against Celtic earlier on. And we can now hear from John Kennedy on the Celtic side of things.
John, how do you sum that one up?
Sore one. Obviously going down to 10 men's, pushing the back foot again, but we still managed to create within that. Rangers were more clinical once again, but the sending off's the big point in the game.
Obviously there's the goal and the sending off all in the one incident. Is that just the turning point, you feel?
Yeah, it's a turning point, but again, it's one of those where, okay, the second tackle is on a yellow, he goes to ground, the red card, that's not a problem. It's the first one, the yellow card. So ask the referee at half time, what did you book McGregor for? And he said a reckless tackle.
John Kennedy there speaking after the Old Firm earlier on when Celtic were thumped 4-1 by Rangers. The teams are back out on the pitch in France. It is La Rochelle 12, Leinster 13. Back to Neil Treacy and Bernard Jackman.
Yeah, thanks, Owen. Well, this second half is set up absolutely brilliantly at Stade Marcel Deflandre. Leinster 13-12 in front, having started brilliantly in that opening half, but La Rochelle gradually getting themselves back into it. And you'd have to say as well, on top in terms of physicality. The teams back out on the pitch. La Rochelle preparing to kick us off. They'll be playing from left to right as we look at it in this second half. And EHIOS, you would imagine Bernard Jackman is going to be kicking this one right down towards the left, up into that sun, where his teammate Dylan Lades had so much trouble in the opening half.
Yeah, it was a huge advantage for Leinster having 3 kickoffs that weren't dealt with, and I'm sure West is going to do the exact same thing. He does, but dealt with nicely by Larmour, so Leinster don't make the same mistake La Rochelle did.
Yeah, surprisingly low trajectory on that kick as it was taken easily by Jordan Larmour. As Leinster set up a ruck just inside their own 22, Luke McGrath preparing to send a box kick back down the far touchline. Victor Vito diving to catch it and does very, very well, but Ronan Keller is over to stop him. About 40 metres out from the Leinster try line, Greg Aldred, who led the way for La Rochelle in terms of carries in that opening half, as they send it back out towards Ehio West, who drives a Gary Owen right down towards the 22. One for James Lowe to take, and he does very, very well and takes his mark. He was only just about inside the 22, but a good take from James Lowe there, Bernard, under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, both Leinster wings stepped up in the first 50 seconds of the second half. Larmour dealing with the kickoff, and then a high ball onto James Lowe, which he dealt with pretty comfortably, and now has found a really good touch over the halfway. But look, I think Leinster be worried. They'd be worried with, even though they have a point lead, just how powerful La Rochelle have looked with ball in hand.
Certainly is the case. James Lowe, as you mentioned, kicking that just about inside the La Rochelle half of the pitch, about 6 inches inside La Rochelle's half, as Pierre Bourgerie prepares to throw in and finds Victor Vito. To Eric Carberlo now out to Will Skelton, who knocks on under good Leinster pressure, and Ross Byrne drills a kick left-footed down, and Victor Vito tries to pop it back, and Ryan Baird was right onto it, but he spilled the ball just as it was popping up nicely for him. And Bernard, it looked for all the world, if that had fallen into Ryan Baird's hands, with his athleticism, he probably would have made it to that try line.
Yeah, he would have. What an opportunity lost. It was a knock-on advantage.
Bounced away from
Ross Byrne put up a high kick and Victor Vito didn't deal with it, but it bounced up lovely for Ryan Baird. And yeah, I agree with you. I think he would have been able to scamper in from 30 metres, because
he's no slouch.
It was on transition, and La Rochelle didn't have their backfield covered because they were attacking off the line out, and it was a uncharacteristic mistake from Will Skelton. They're looking to use him off short lines to get over the gain line. Unfortunately, he just got caught ball watching a little bit and knocked it on.
Yeah, big mistake from La Rochelle, but a big let-off as well. They're going to have possession of this scrum. The put into this scrum just outside their own 22, 5 metres in from this near touchline. As the scrum just popped up there, Ronan Keller stood up. He wasn't quite set, wasn't quite comfortable, and just stood up to reset again. 42 and a half minutes played. Leinster leading by 13 points to 12 in this Heineken Champions Cup semi-final. We will let you know as the second half develops here as well what is happening at Old Trafford. It looks like the kick-off between Manchester United and Liverpool is going to be delayed. We don't have an official time yet. We will let you know when that comes. Big scrum though from the La Rochelle loose side, and they have a penalty advantage on the way as they send the ball out wide. Dumaru now as they send it right out towards that far touchline. Doolan had it, but in the end he just ran out of ground and dropped the ball, but we're coming all the way back for this La Rochelle penalty. And that was a big drive there from Reda Wardy, who got the nudge on Tyg Furlong on that La Rochelle loose side.
Yeah, that's really worrying from a Leinster point of view, but a huge lift for La Rochelle. We saw earlier in the game when they went to the maul, they had Leinster on the back foot, and they're, a scrum in their own half. They went for a double shove, and quickly the Leinster front row disintegrated, and La Rochelle went up on the loose head side under Tyg Furlong's Leinster side, and straight away Matthew Cardy had this penalty up. So I'd hand up for a penalty, and La Rochelle, had a bit of a freebie. They went wide but didn't capitalise on it. But they'll be very happy to go down the line now and go after Leinster's maul and really try and put a stranglehold on Leinster up front.
Yeah, and it was Breece Doolan who kicked that penalty down the touchline, but wasn't too pleased with the mark it was given. Just outside the Leinster 22 is where our touch judge or assistant referee has decided we're going to be throwing into this line out. On this near touchline, 5-6 metres out from the Leinster 22. La Rochelle going full man on the line out. Greg Aldred, first jumper, with Will Skelton just behind him. As they send Aldred up, and James Ryan or Jack Conan thought he had got a hand on it, but just about missed it as La Rochelle set up this maul, and they got one working really well in the opening half, and this one is starting to move as well towards the 22, but Ryan Baird has got in over the top of it very well, but Pierre Bergerie has just wriggled his way out of it excellently and has manages to recycle possession for La Rochelle. Kerr Barlow now out to Liebenberg as they go back towards the left and move it in field. Kerr Barlow delays the pass and puts it out to West, and it's Lades who skips out of a tackle and comes up towards the 22. Kerr Barlow going back towards the right. Reda Wardy, who won that excellent scrum penalty just a minute or so ago, coming back in field. Ehio West to Levani Bhatia with a big strong carry, and he's fallen very awkwardly there in the tackle. That looked a painful one, but they recycle possession and come back in field. And Bhatia is down injured and he's holding his knee, and that was a very awkward fall when he was tackled. He just bundled down and buckled in over his own leg, and the medics are on straight away to him. But we're going to stop possession because it looks like there's a penalty for La Rochelle in the build-up to that. But Bernard, that looked a nasty fall, the way Levani Bhatia went to ground.
Yeah, he seemed to be working to fight back to present the ball, and his legs got stuck underneath him. So straight away there was a roar. They're starting to use him and Raymond Rule now in terms of that second wave of attackers. It was a good tackle. Yeah, his leg, his leg looked really trapped underneath him. Conan had gone up after the line out, got a hand to it, but didn't win it. And from there, La Rochelle, because Leinster had pod in the air, La Rochelle got go forward. Ryan Baird did a great job to get in and disrupt it. But Boujari, once he breaks out from those mauls, he's been so hard to stop. And again, it's just an example of La Rochelle, when they get on the front foot, just the power they have, which Leinster are really struggling to contain at the moment.
Their keep ball alive ethos gets a lot of airtime, but it goes to show you can't really do it without a dominant pack and without big ball winners up in your front five.
Yeah, 100%. And they actually haven't been offloading as much as the term keep the ball alive would say, but what they have been doing is going forward, and that's smart. Leinster do get into that offload channel with the defender either side of the ball carrier, so there hasn't been many opportunities, but I think Leinster are very worried when they're on the front foot, and then they go to the backs and they have the likes of, as I said, Ruel and Lades and Bhatia out the back, and then they pick off tight five forwards who are in the line. That's when they're really dangerous. And the way the game is at the moment, it'll literally just be one mismatch that could create the line break that La Rochelle have tended to capitalise on and convert, and next thing Leinster will be chasing the game.
You know me, Bernard, I just want to make sure all the heavies get the due credit they deserve.
No, in fairness, and it has been a game dominated by both forward packs so far, and I think that'll be the key. If Leinster don't shore up that scrum that we saw on the last La Rochelle put in, La Rochelle will milk that for penalties and then have field position or knock over 3 points, and that's a key area that Leinster will want to make sure that they shore up.
Well, luckily for La Rochelle, it looks like Bottier is probably going to be able to stay on. He's getting some heavy strapping done to his ankle, but he is back up on his feet, hobbling a little bit, but getting back into position as La Rochelle get ready to kick this penalty, and a relatively straightforward opportunity for them to go into the lead for the first time in this game. 15 metres in from the near touchline, right on the 22, and similar enough to one of the kicks in the opening half that Ohio West would have knocked over, Bernard.
Yeah, you'd expect him to slot this. Really, it's on his wrong side, but it's a nice position on the field, and it seemed Leinster definitely playing into the sun in the second half. So any high aerial kicks will be certainly dangerous. And if West can just nurse La Rochelle ahead now and then play that territory and smart balance between kicking and running, they'll feel very comfortable about where they are.
They certainly will, as West prepares to kick it, actually just outside the 22 rather than just on it. So about 24 metres out from goal, 15 in from the near touch line, as La Rochelle look to go 15-13 ahead, and crucially as well ahead in this game for the very first time, having been pegging Leinster back all the way through. And that one just about crept over in the end, Bernard. It started drifting out towards the near post and just about snuck inside it in the end.
It wasn't convincing, but it's marked up, and Bottier looks like he's going to be able to play on. I think he's given the physio a thumbs up, so he won't want to go off. He's been around La Rochelle for a long time, and to be able to be part of getting a La Rochelle team to a European final, he'll do everything in his power to stay on the field. And La Rochelle are in a good position now.
They are. They're leading by 15 points to 13 with 46 minutes played here at Stade Marcel Deflandre, as Geoffrey Dumaru takes the Leinster kick-off, which Ross Byrne had sent out towards the right. They're just outside their own 22. Ronan Kelleher making a real nuisance of himself inside in this ruck, trying to slow down possession, but Kerr Barlow gets it back to Brice Doolan, who sends a left-footed clearance from the centre of the pitch straight down the guts of Hugo Keenan, who's just outside his own 22, and countering up and bringing it up to 10 metres inside his own half, and a big one for a teammate to chase for Robbie Henshaw, it was Keenan ended up chasing that one. I lost to who kicked it, but La Rochelle send it back down the channel towards this near touchline where James Lowe has it, and again he kicks it back down their throats, drifting back in field. He's the only real one up chasing it, and manages to bat it down where it's taken by Ross Byrne, and Byrne coming out towards the left, and he has a couple of players he can use out here. Jack Conan, lovely little ball inside for him, and he skips back inside, and he's taken to ground by Bourgarit, who's had an excellent game so far for La Rochelle. Tyke Furlong with a strong carry, just bouncing Dylan Lades off him and getting up to 10 metres inside the La Rochelle half of the pitch. A couple of nice little offloads from Leinster there, but it seems we have a player down. We have a player down, potentially with a head injury, I would say, with the speed at which Matt Carley has stopped this game.
Yeah, I hope
mentioning your player to one of the Leinster players.
Oh, it's actually this could be dangerous for Tyke Furlong. It looks like he actually leads with his shoulder, but at the last minute in contact with Lade, Dylan Lade, he does bring his forearm up, and I think the TMO might have a look at that.
Yeah, potentially. Time is going off, and Furlong himself is getting a little bit of treatment as well, as we saw Levani Bottier just off screen as well was also getting another little bit of treatment, not looking too comfortable. But Furlong, Bottier is coming off the pitch now to be replaced by number 23 Pierre Aguilon.
Aguilon is a good operator, but he wouldn't have the same level of breakdown threat or absolute power that Bottier has. So that's a boost for Leinster the last half hour without La Rochelle's talisman being on the field. Furlong looks like he's got away with that carry.
No clear foul play was the line we could just about hear in the background there from Matt Carley.
Yeah, and that's I think if there had been I've seen penalties given for that kind of carry. And look, it's important Furlong starts to carry the ball. Leinster have just gone a little bit quiet, and he's probably their most likely forward to be able to punch holes. So it was a really aggressive carry, and he did bounce a couple of players. Just needs to be careful, obviously, with how he uses his forearm.
Yeah, he's certainly shaken up Dylan Lades as well. As we continue to pause here. We are going to look at this again. I had thought I heard Matt Carley saying no clear foul play. But as we watch it, so Tyke Furlong comes into this. He seems to lead with his own shoulder. and then just pushes off, and Matt Carley is happy with that. I think the explanation, Bernard, is that he didn't push off initially with the forearm. It was that he was hit with led in with his shoulder, and once the contact was made, then pushed off, as opposed to pushing out initially with the arm.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair. In fairness, we got another angle there, and I think that was the delay. The TMO, Ian Tempest, was looking for as many angles as he could, and I think it's the right call. So yeah, look, Leinster will be relieved to get away with that. La Rochelle seemed to feel there was a foul play, and we're looking for a penalty. Yeah,
obviously no fans in the stadium this afternoon, but you can certainly hear you were able to hear the thoughts of the La Rochelle support staff on the sideline as La Rochelle get a huge drive in that scrum, but it was after the whistle had gone where we're going to reset. Just too much movement in that scrum. It was going up and down. Too much movement for Matt Carley's liking as we continue to tick on with this clock hitting 49 minutes. As we get a replay of this scrum, just the power you can see. Cian Healy ended up dropping to his knee from Wayne Antonio, and Greg Aldred actually, as you could see, picked Cian Healy up off the ground and rebounded him to the scrum. Yeah, and on the second angle there, Neil, that should have been a penalty to Leinster. Certainly the touch judge should have been making Matthew Cardy aware that Cian Healy was the one who dropped to the knee. But luckily Leinster get another shot at it. It's their feed, so they can control the speed they put in here, so they have a much better chance of getting the ball in and away than obviously on La Rochelle ball, where they can go for that second shove and try and use their power. Yeah, and our referee obviously a little bit wary that the trouble was coming on this near side of the scrum with Wayne Antonio and Cian Healy, because he's come over to keep an eye on this side. We're still just preparing to set in. Feels like an age since we've had any actual play between the injury stoppage and now this stop-start nature of these couple of scrums. As we set again, and Leinster end up pushing on a little bit too far, but no, it's going to be a free kick to Leinster. La Rochelle penalised for not being stable at any stage, says Carley, as Ryan Baird picks and goes straight up the guts of the La Rochelle defence. And another good carry from Ronan Keller as Leinster edge their way up towards the 22. This is better in contact from Leinster, as Wian Liebenberg just about rolled away. Tackle from Victor Vito. Out to Robbie Henshaw, spins out of a tackle, and Vito in the end is the one who tackles him. Antonio tries to get in over. Luke McGrath towards the right. Ronan Kelleher with a good carry. Leinster edging their way up towards the 22, and Antonio looks like he's got his hands on, but he spills to the ground and the ball pops out. It's going to be a Leinster penalty coming back a couple of phases. For Wayne Antonio was legal on that. It was another La Rochelle player who was penalised for getting their hands in over the ball, and a chance for Ross Byrne, you would say, Bernard, to have another shot at goal here and try edge Leinster back into the lead. Yeah, much more pragmatic approach from Leinster, looking to attack, very close to the ruck. Luke McGrath running off the base, and the likes of Kelleher getting a couple of big carries before they eventually release to the backs. The penalty's actually against an early tackle on Gary Ringrose when he was running the support line for Robbie Henshaw. So that's what the referee picked up. But Leinster are flooding that space in between the ruck and the third defender with lots of bodies and making it hard for La Rochelle to make those double hits they were making in the first half. So nice change up tactically by Leinster, which has led to this penalty, which will hopefully put them back in front. And the game really starting to slow down with a couple of injury stoppages here. Victor Vito is the latest to get a little bit of treatment for what's just a little cut just above the eye. Ross Byrne is going to be taking a kick at goal here. He's about 30 metres out, just about to the right of the post. And after Leinster losing their lead about 5-6 minutes ago, a chance for Ross Byrne to put them back into a 1-point advantage, to put them 16-15 in front with 52 minutes played. Or it's going to be, it is Ross Byrne. It looked like Luke McGrath for a split second there, but Byrne has struck it, and he struck it well, and he puts it straight between the posts. And Leinster are back in front here by 16 points to 15. Yeah, and this game could quickly turn into a classic game of cup rugby, set piece, territory, discipline, and who kicks their goals. And so far Ross Byrne and West have stepped up to the plate in general, and it could come down to nerve and being able to convert one of those opportunities that come from ill-discipline of the other. Couple of changes on the La Rochelle side here, and a handy little player to be able to bring on, Kevin Gordon, Bernard. He's just come onto the pitch. I missed who he went off for, but they've also brought loosehead prop Danny Priso on as well. Yeah, Priso's very explosive, and Gordon is a top-class back rower. He'd be in most teams, starting teams, and it's a real area of strength for La Rochelle. Yeah. Gordon. He's nominated for European Player of the Year as well, as we mentioned, with the likes of Will Skelton and Levani Bottia as well. Has been here since way back in the Pro D2 days, along with a couple of other players who have as well, as we mentioned, Bottia and their captain Roman Sazi, as well as Weenie Antonio. Played more than 200 games for the club now. Leinster in possession of the ball here as we get back underway just inside their own 22. Scrambling around for possession a little bit. Van der Fleer putting it out to, standing in at scrum half and passing out to James Ryan as they go through a couple of phases and just try to slow things down and prepare the opportunity to kick, which Luke McGrath does, and it's one for Jordan Larmour to chase as it drifts back in field, and he's stopped by a couple of escort lines. But Raymond Rule managed to control possession there, about 30 metres out from the Leinster try line on that far touchline. Car Barlow now moving it back in field to Will Skelton with a big carry, and Ryan Baird does his best to stop him, but Skelton manages to shrug off that tackle and get up towards the 22. Car Barlow now to West dummies and comes back inside, but he's held up excellently by Jack Conan, but he manages to offload it brilliantly out to Greg Aldred. Aldred is tackle, and Car Barlow now stepping up the pace, and Doolan pops it outside to Rule, and Rule to Dylan Leeds, who had an option to go outside to Jeffrey Dumaru, but he goes back inside and he's tackled by a Leinster player, and the penalty advantage is coming back now for La Rochelle, so they have an opportunity to have a shot at goal or even a free crack at getting a try. Penalty advantage coming. They're 15 metres out, 20 metres out from the try line, moving out towards the left, and West tries to dink a little kick in towards the far corner where it's hit the post pad and it's gone in over the Leinster try line and dotted down by Hugo Keenan, but we're going to come all the way back for this penalty. And back and forth, Bernard. Another opportunity here for La Rochelle to go in front. But as we mentioned as well, they had numbers out. They had numbers out on the far side, and Leinster are going to go down to 14 men as well.
Yeah, Dylan Lades had an absolute shocker.
James Lowe is going to the bin. Sorry to cut across you. Dylan Lades, as you mentioned, he's having a howler of a game.
La Rochelle did so well to create a 2v1, and he just needed to release Dumaru, and he would have scored in the corner from following brilliant work from Mahia West. And Carbarlo to find the space in the edge, but he took it and got tackled. Obviously they've come back now, and James Lowe was offside, so Leinster will suffer 14 men will play with 14 men for 10 minutes. But La Rochelle, it started with a massive carry from Will Skelton. He bounces off Ryan Baird and Tyke Furlong, and just at 4 or 5 metres he got over the gain line. Again, La Rochelle then were on the front foot, and beautiful hands here. Rule puts laid away. I think Dumaru would have scored there if he's got to give him the shot. And Leinster get away with it. Leinster were really struggling to really control this game, which is so unlike them. And it's probably the fear people had beforehand, how they handled the power. And at the moment, the La Rochelle's power is asking all the questions.
Yeah, and the hope was that Leinster could tire out the power by keeping the ball in play, but it certainly doesn't look. I know we still have 25 minutes left in this game, but it doesn't look like that. Those La Rochelle players are tiring yet. 56 minutes played as Ihia West prepares to kick it in an identical spot to where he landed that last penalty about 10 minutes ago, which put La Rochelle in front for the first time in the game, looking to go ahead for the second time in the game. And he strikes that well, and it's going between the posts, and La Rochelle are back in front here, 18 points to 16, 56 minutes on the clock. But for the second time in this match, it could have been a lot worse than just 3 points for Leinster. If Dylan Lades had passed the ball.
Yeah, and Ed Burns come on now for Cian Healy, which is a big call with 25 minutes left. Healy's strength at that scrum time has kept Leinster holding it together by and large. So big test for Ed Byrne.
High kick from Ross Byrne, but it's taken excellently by La Rochelle. It was right up in the sky as they pass it out now, just inside their own half to Greg Aldred. Carbarlow and Will Skelton is just stepping in for a little bit of extra support as they prepare to exit and send it down towards the Leinster 22. And Hugo Keenan, the sun was right up in his eyes there, but he managed to take it well. He had to reach out at the last second to grab it, but he did so successfully. Leinster retaining possession as they put it out to Jack Conan with a good hard carry, getting just about over the gain line. Luke McGrath just spinning the ball backwards from Devon Toner and James Ryan, and sends a kick down himself into the La Rochelle half of the pitch, and it's one that Jordan Larmour chased up well and tried to get his hands on, but just about knocked on in the end as La Rochelle looked to counter. Aldred now offloads it to Liebenberg, and it's a penalty advantage on the way for the high tackle and Kevin Gordon. And Danny Priso now getting his hands on the ball for the first time in the game. Ed Byrne looking where to go as West goes out, and they skip it outside now to Aguilon, and Aguilon out to Lades. Lades steps inside Josh van der Fleer, but he's brought to ground by Robbie Henshaw as Brice Doolan gets it out to Gordon again, and Dylan Lades stepping back inside as an auxiliary scrum half, while Kerr Barlow passes it out to West, and Raymond Rule drifting back in field and spreads it out towards the far touchline to Greg Aldris, who's tackled La Rochelle about 5-6 metres out from the Leinster try line, just 15-20 metres in from the far touchline. Working their way up towards the 22. Andrew Porter, we can see, is also on the pitch now. He came on in the last couple of minutes, and they kicked towards the corner. They had the penalty advantage. It was one for Aguilon to chase, and it ended up bouncing nicely out into touch, but we are going to come all the way back for the penalty.
Yeah, and
way further back, about 40 metres out from the Leinster try line.
But again, Neil, once they had a knock-on advantage, so there was a contestable that Jordan Larmour knocked on in the air, and just that little bit of freedom, they started to play the game, the keep ball alive approach, and play the game on their feet, just offloading and contact. And they look so good when they do that, when their forwards just manage to stand up and just slip the ball out the back door, or a little turn and pop pass. And Leinster's defence is very much based on creating rucks and obviously defending off rucks. But when La Rochelle do offload in contact, Leinster just can't get that starting point, and there's a lot of soft holes for them to run into, and they really are taking advantage of that, showing great skills amongst the forwards, just popping the ball left and right, one hands, two hands, and they have Leinster very much on the back foot.
They certainly do. And as you were speaking there, the penalty count popped up in front of us, and bear in mind that La Rochelle conceded 6 penalties inside the first 7 or 8 minutes of the game. The penalty is now 13-10. 13 penalties Leinster have conceded. La Rochelle have conceded just 3 penalties in pretty much the last 50 minutes of the game, while Leinster have hit 13 in that time. And Ihia West, off the latest one of these, is going to have another crack at goal to extend La Rochelle's lead out potentially to 5 points as we hit the hour mark. He's bang on the halfway line, relatively straight in front of the posts. It was a high tackle in the end from Jack Conan, what the penalty was conceded for, as Ihia West 100% off the tee so far. This one probably on the edge of the range, and he's struck it pretty well, and it's cracked off the post. He certainly had the legs, but it hit the post and bounced out. Unsuccessful kick. Robbie Henshaw did well to regather for Leinster, and they have possession on the edge of their own 22 here. Ronan Kelleher with a good strong carry, eventually brought to ground by Will Skelton. Luke McGrath looking to send possession back out towards the left, towards this near touchline for Jack Conan to scramble and carry. Leinster just outside their 22, 15 in from this near touchline, trailing by 18 points to 6 on the hour mark. 18 points to 16 rather on the hour mark against La Rochelle. As Luke McGrath sends a kick, and it's gone all the way out, and he was outside his 22 when he kicked it, so possession's going to be coming back, and it's going to be a La Rochelle put into this line out. And that was a mistake from Luke McGrath, an uncharacteristic one, Bernard.
No, very much so. And Leinster now have got 4.5 minutes left with 14 men. They just need to make sure they're a little bit more accurate than that. Just looking at the Leinster bench, I mean, they've brought on the replacement props, but looking at Rowan Osborne for Luke McGrath, that's probably not a call that Leo Cullen want to make. Kieran Frawley's played very little rugby. Rory O'Loughlin, you want to keep him back because he's so versatile. He can cover a lot of positions. The last real call that Leo can make is Scott Fardy, who I would be getting in. I think they need him now. They need a little bit of experience, a little bit of leadership to make sure they don't concede any more points, and just work their way up the field.
Well, speaking of leadership, as you were talking there, Devin Toner stepping up when it was needed, Mo stealing that line out from the hands of a La Rochelle player. And Josh van der Fleer is taking a heavy knock in the air there. It looked like a fair collision between himself and Dylan Lades, who were both going for the ball, but Jack Conan has taken it into contact, and it's Pierre Bourgerie, the hooker, who managed to get in over the top and win that penalty. And Bourgerie, Bernard, is having an absolute cracker of a game.
Look at the depth France have in terms of international hookers is phenomenal. Bourgerie was part of the squad this year. You have Camille Shah, you have Marchand and Aim, just big physical ball carriers, very good in set piece, very good over the ball, and he's having an absolute stormer. He came from Osh which is a famous club, came through the hard way, but over the last couple of years has just been outstanding for La Rochelle. And he's got a massive future, and he's taking this game by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, still just 23, and seems he's absolutely lethal when he gets a sniff of the try line as well. He's La Rochelle's highest try scorer in the top 14 this season. 8 tries in just 13 games so far, which is a pretty serious return for a hooker. I know we were all salivating over Ronan Kelleher's figures last season when he was up around 6 or 7 midway through the season. But Bourgerie, 8 and 13 in the top 14 this season, and having a cracker of a game so far today. Brice Doolan has kicked that down in towards the corner, as La Rochelle gets set for another line out just inside the Leinster 22. The last one didn't go to plan. They lost their communication. They threw a jumper up and it didn't go, went over him, and in the end Devin Toner climbed highest to pick it out of the skies. But no sooner had Leinster won it had they coughed it back up again. This is about 15 metres out from the Leinster try line on this near side of the pitch, with 62.5 minutes played. Leinster with 2.5 minutes left to go on this sin bin as well, when they'll be back to 15 players. James Lowe is in the bin for not rolling away in the penalty that put La Rochelle back in front 7.5 minutes ago. And again Devin Toner has jumped up and stolen it. The communication's gone to pot for La Rochelle, and they've lost a second line out in a row, and it's Devin Toner who's stolen it, and Luke McGrath manages to clear the lines, but under pressure he's only managed to get it right up towards the edge of the 22. And for 2 line-out steals in as many minutes, Bernard, Leinster haven't got much change out of it.
No, they haven't, but they've survived the onslaught, and this is the key one now. Can they get up in the air again and disrupt the third one? John Gibbs will be trying to get a message on where the space is. It's very hard to overthrow Devin Toner, but this time they've got it right.
Yeah, this time they have it right, and it's Kevin Gordon who takes it, only on the pitch in the last couple of minutes as they look to set up a maul. Not going anywhere just yet, told to use it, and Bourgerie breaks, and he's tackled by Ronan Kelleher just inside the Leinster 22. Carbarlo out to Antonio, still on the pitch, 63 minutes on the clock, and Leinster not rolling away, and they were lucky maybe to get away without conceding a penalty advantage there, as La Rochelle bundle their way, getting closer and closer over this gain line, up to around 10 metres from the try line. Out to Jeffrey Dumaru, who's tackled, and now it's Greg Aldred who tries to snipe on the right side, but Robbie Henshaw tackles him, and Will Skelton carries another short little burst at the edge of that ruck, going back towards the left. Carbarlo, as they look to get it out towards the wing. It's Aguilon who's tackled well, but he's gaining up towards the try line. La Rochelle just a couple of feet short. They had numbers on the outside and they tried to get over the line, and it looks like they're very, very close. Not quite there just yet though. Matthew Carley going around to look at it, and it looks like they might be over the line, and we might be having a check and see. Have La Rochelle got over to score their opening try of the game and potentially put a little bit of distance between themselves and Leinster? There are bodies all over the place in there. I think it was Pierre Bourgerie as well, who we just mentioned enjoys a try in the top 14.
We haven't got a clear grounding of the ball, so on-field decision will be no try. You're just going to check to see if Tempo can see a clear grounding. If not, it'll be a 5-metre scrum.
So that's what we know so far. We were just listening to our referee Matt Carley speak to his assistant and TMO there. On-field decision is no try, but we are going to check and see if there has been a try scored. If not, no advantage had been playing. It'll just be coming back for a 5-metre scrum. Big moment here, Bernard.
Yeah, it's huge, and we just see it was...
The ball has made the line. Stand by. On-field decision is no try.
Yeah,
no problem.
Carballo surely got that down. It's just the angle we have is very poor. Josh Renfrew does a great job. He dives and blocks off the camera angle. This angle should show us.
As Carballo dives and tries to get there, we can't see anything yet. We can see the ball on the ground, but it's where is it on the ground? It's hard to see. Is that on the line or is it short of the line?
It looks like it's short to me. I mean, he's in for all money. His feet. He slips actually as he's diving for it. Leinster at 6 and 7s defensively. Josh Renfrew has to come in from about 3 metres out to try and stop him. I think we'll get away with it, but the problem is, can we survive the onslaught of a 5-metre scrum if it's not a try now?
Yeah, and I think it looks like James Lowe would be coming back onto the pitch anyway, so I think we would have 15 on 15 if it is going to be a 5-metre scrum, as we continue to look back through these replays. And Tawera Carbarlo just trying to dive and reach out, and it was Josh van der Fleer who managed to get in and if the on-field decision is no try, it's going to be very, very hard to overrule that decision and give a try here to La Rochelle. And again, we wait to where Carbarlo trying to see if he scored a try. On-field decision stands, no try. So Carbarlo, the former World Cup winner with New Zealand, left frustrated by Josh van der Flier, but a huge opportunity here now for La Rochelle. 5-metre scrum, about 6 metres in from the far touchline. So a very small blindside to be working with. But this, potentially, Bernard, is a game-changing moment.
This is the game here. This is the game. Can Leinster survive this? La Rochelle have to fancy their chances of getting after Leinster here at scrum time, going for that double shove, trying to force at least a penalty.
Skelton and Antonio still on. Leinster have changed Keane Healy on for Ed Byrne as well.
Yeah, and Antonio's got Skelton behind him. If they can just get that right angle, Vito running at Ross Byrne, this is huge.
So scrum is set. Carbarlo feeds the scrum. Leinster holding firm for the moment anyway, not much movement. It looks like it's collapsed on the far side as La Rochelle drive forward, but no penalty advantage coming. Vito drives his way towards the line. He's tackled well, stopped 4 metres out. Skelton with the pick and go. He gets to 3 out. Now Danny Priso drives and he gets up towards the try line, and it looks like they might be close. They might be over. The ball is there. It's ready to be played. La Rochelle are right on this try line, and Greg Aldred dives, and it looks like Greg Aldred is over. And Greg Aldred scores La Rochelle's first try of the game. And that extends the lead. And that is a huge, huge moment. La Rochelle going 23 points to 16 in front. You can't say it wasn't coming, though. They've been camped in this Leinster half of the pitch for the last 10-15 minutes of the game. And in the end, it is Gregory Aldred, who is one of the best French players in the Six Nations, European Player of the Year nominee. And he's been in serious try-scoring form this season. 6 tries in 8 games in the top 14. He scored a few weeks ago in the quarter-final against the Sale Sharks. And he's over again for La Rochelle's opening try of the game. And with a conversion to come, they are 5 clear of Leinster with 14 minutes to play.
Yeah, Leinster managed to make them play away from the scrum. The scrum crumbled on the far side, under Andrew Porter's side, and the referee didn't blow it up. So Victor Vito picked it up. He sprinted into Ross Byrne. In fairness to Ross Byrne, he made the chop tackle. He did his job. But then it was Skelton on a pick and go, getting another 2 or 3 metres. Danny Priso got another metre, and eventually it was Aldred who got it down. But this is massive. This kick here, if it's very easy conversion for West, but that'll put La Rochelle 2 scores ahead and puts it really up to Leinster. And at the moment, you just don't see where Leinster have an area of dominance that they can get back into the game.
It certainly is, yeah. They've barely had a sniff in the second half, aside from that penalty around the 50-minute mark. Ihaya West, 20 metres in from the far touchline, about 25 out from goal, and that's no harm to him. He taps it over the post, and that lead is out to 9 points. It is, as you say, Bernard, a 2-score game. La Rochelle 25, Leinster 16, and Leinster just about back to the full 15 now with James Lowe back on the pitch. But Gregory Aldred, I know he's someone we've spoken about a couple of times, a lot over the last couple of seasons. He is absolutely lethal when he gets close to the try line. That is his 21st La Rochelle try in just his 55th game for the club. You're talking in between a try between every 2 and 3 games.
Yeah, he's top class, and La Rochelle just take that kick off and just find touch, and they'll be happy now to play a set piece game. Be control. Leinster are going to have to get some tempo into this and try and pick up the pace and take a few risks now.
Weenie Antonio's day is done as well. He's been replaced at tight head prop by Arthur Jolly, and Thomas Lavold has also come on for the La Rochelle captain Roman Sazi as Leinster win their own line out on the halfway line, and Jordan Larmour skips it outside now to Hugo Keenan. A chance for Leinster to have a cut and get back into La Rochelle territory as they try to salvage this game. They're 9 points behind with just 12 minutes to go here in the dead heat of the west of France. And Luke McGrath sends it out towards the right. Leinster in between the 22 and the 10-metre line, so around 30 from goal in the centre of the pitch. Byrne trying to get it out towards the left to Robbie Henshaw, who gains an extra yard or 2. McGrath going back towards the right, claims for a knock on, but it was off a Leinster boot, so we're going to play on, and Ryan Baird, with the help of Devin Toner, gets over the gain line. Again, Leinster around 25 metres out as Ross Byrne out to his namesake Ed Byrne. And Byrne again skips it outside to Gary Ringrose, and Ronan Keller, who stayed out on this wing waiting for the moment, he manages to steal an extra half yard or so. La Rochelle thought they were over it, but Luke McGrath had other ideas and he got the ball free. And again he goes out towards the left to Ross Byrne, to James Ryan. Again Leinster keeping the ball in midfield, not gaining too many yards though in between the 22 metre and the 10 metre line. About 30 out from goal. Ronan Keller with a short little carry, but again he's stopped and they go back towards the left, and Jack Conan the latest to carry, tackled by West. Out to Robbie Henshaw, and another strong carry from the La Rochelle players, and a turnover for La Rochelle. And it is Dylan Lades, who's been having a tough game of it so far today, Bernard, but he came up with a big turnover there.
Yeah, Leinster are throwing the kitchen sink at La Rochelle there, but again they never got a metre over the gain line, Neil. It was just so comfortable for La Rochelle. They kept their patience. Great tackle from Bougerie on Kelleher, and eventually, you know, Dylan Lade gets in as an assist tackler and gets a turnover. And Leinster really need to get some inspiration or a little bit of luck from somewhere, because at the moment their standard game plan isn't paying dividends.
Yeah, that's certainly the case, and Doolan is going to kick this one and drive it down as far as he can down the pitch, and he gets a good bit of distance on it in between the 10 metre and the 22, so around 30 out from the Leinster try line on this near touch line. And as you said, Leinster, they're going to need something from somewhere, Bernard, but at the moment it looks like they're going to be relying on a La Rochelle mistake rather than something they can create at the moment, because they are seriously still struggling with these big collisions and struggling to gain any real ground even when they're going through the phases.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, we talked about the last 10 minutes, maybe La Rochelle would tire, but it's going to be so much easier for La Rochelle to stay in the game with a 2-score lead, and now they're going back to their maul again, and where they're getting big yardage.
Yeah, and it's sub-hooker Facundo Bosch on for Pierre Bourgerie, who's just about tackled and bundled out into touch just inside the Leinster 22. They tried to set up a maul. It wasn't really going anywhere, and Facundo Bosch, the former Puma,
yeah, he goes down the blind side. He shrugs off Luke McGrath, but he ends up getting caught in touch. But they won't mind. I mean, Leinster having a set piece in their own 22 won't bother La Rochelle too much. Conan's trying to clear or get over the gain line here, but Leinster are going to have to kick out of here.
Yeah, they are, and it's back to James Lowe, who drives it left-footed down and gets a good bit of distance, but it's taken in the end by Dylan Lades to Greg Aldred, and it's out now to Brees Doolan, who chips one over the top, left-footed down towards the 22 for James Lowe to take, and catches a mark and calls the mark and takes it quickly and kicks the leather off it and manages to get a decent enough bit of distance. It looked like he's about 15-20 metres inside the La Rochelle half of the pitch. But again, La Rochelle, they're just happy to kick that ball to Leinster deep and just let them send it back in again.
Yeah, because they can wind the clock down now. They can walk up to the line out. You know, I know they had a couple of wobbles earlier on, but the last couple have looked good. There's 8 minutes left. You know, they're looking for a ball now. Just wind it down. Scott Fardy's on now. Like, if Leinster are going to kick it out, they need to get pressure on the defensive line, or else it'll just become kick tennis. And La Rochelle, with the score advantage they have, they'll be so comfortable doing that.
Yeah, and La Rochelle happy to do that all day, it seems. La Rochelle with the line out, Facundo Bosch to throw in. As you said, Scott Fardy is just onto the pitch as well in the last few moments, as is James Treacy at hooker. And La Rochelle send it back to Ohio West, who brought it back into his own 22, so can't kick it straight out, and it stays in pitch into James Lowe just inside the 22, and at an awkward angle James Lowe kicks it, but just sends it straight up into the sky, and he lost it himself in the air, and Ryan Baird spilled it, and it's dropped back into the hands of Greg Aldred just outside the 22. Some really, really disorganised play there from Leinster, and a penalty advantage coming the way for La Rochelle as well. Or was it just the scrum advantage? I saw an advantage being played, but Hugo Keenan went up to catch that ball and knocked it on as well, as the ball manages to stay in play, and it's Facundo Bosch who spills it, and we are going to come back from this for this La Rochelle penalty. A really, really disorganised and disjointed phase of play from both sides, but the net result is a penalty for La Rochelle, which they'll be more than happy to take and just kill off another few seconds.
Yeah, disaster. So Leinster didn't get after the line out. West found grass in behind James Lowe, and he kind of dilly-dallied a little bit. It looked like he was going to counter-attack. Then he tried to kick at the last minute, and the ball just went straight up in the air, and all the Leinster players were offside, and eventually there was a knock-on from Ryan Baird. But this is just meat and drink to La Rochelle. I'd say they can't believe how Leinster are just messing around, not taking the game to them, and they're able to trap them so easily up in their own half, their own 22 actually, which is so unlike Leinster, but they're really lacking that I suppose, clarity of mind and thought at the moment, and their execution hasn't been anywhere near the level we expected or needs to be. And it's very hard to see Leinster get back into this game now. La Rochelle look totally dominant.
Yeah, they certainly do, and the penalty is theirs, just in and around the Leinster 22, about 15 metres or so in from this near touchline. We'll give you the exact spot when it's called by Matt Carley, but we just have a little bit of break and play at the moment as a couple of players receive some treatment. But you would expect Ohio West is going to be having a kick at goal here, not only to try push out the scoreline, but also as well to shave another minute or so off the clock.
Yeah, it's just there's La Rochelle, they must have everybody who works in the organisation in the ground, the big crowd of them there, and they must be so happy. But I think he's going to kick to the corner. I think they're right to kick to the corner, Neil. They already have a 2-score lead. They could score from this maul and kill the game off. But even if they don't, Leinster are trapped in the bottom right-hand corner, and it's demoralising. This is what Leinster usually do to the opposition teams. They strangle them, and La Rochelle are doing that to Leinster at the moment.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they do, kicking it down into the corner. And they're going to have a line out 6-7 metres from the Leinster try line on this near touch line. And they go straight up at 2 to Victor Vito. And they set up a maul where Facundo Bosch has it at the back of the maul, working their way towards the try line. Andrew Porter has slid up the side. He's resisting the urge to take out Facundo Bosch as Will Skelton has it now and drives towards the try line, and Will Skelton is there and he's over, and that's the try, and that, you would say, is the ball game. La Rochelle with 6 minutes to play of their second try of the match, and they lead Leinster by 30 points to 16.
That's so good from Skelton. I mean, he has been, for me, he's the man of the match. He's just ability to go forward here. The maul, Leinster dealt with the maul okay at the start, but at the back of the maul was Bougerie, and Skelton comes in, and just as they break off, he's still 6 metres to go, and he gets tackled a metre out, and then his big long arms just lean over. He has been the most dominant player for me, and a huge part of La Rochelle's success tonight. It's very disappointing from Leinster, but there's no argument La Rochelle being the best team.
Yeah, and it's a second time in a couple of years that Will Skelton has been a thorn in Leinster's side. I know before the game you referenced the 2019 final when he was playing with Saracens and the influence he had over Leinster in that game. He was one of the best players on the pitch as Saracens ended Leinster's hopes of a second consecutive domestic and European double. Well, there he is with the try to make it a 30 points to 16 game, and Ohio West standing over this conversion about 15-16 metres in from the near touchline, 30 out, but with 5 minutes on the clock and a 14-point lead, it probably seems academic whether or not he scores from this conversion. 6 out of 7 so far in the game. Leinster shot up initially, but they're not going to be able to try charge it down now. And West kicks it, and it's between the posts again, and the gap is 16 points. It's 32 to 16. It's a 3-score match, and Leinster's hopes of putting a 5th star on that jersey, Bernard, certainly look done now.
Yeah, that's the game, and Sean Victor Vito there. He's been a huge part of this rise of La Rochelle. As I said, he came in with I think he's 35 All Black caps, and he's brought this team on. And Jules Plisson coming on now, the quality they have to be able to bring on a player of Jules Plisson's ability to replace Ohio West. This is a really good squad, and to be honest, I think they'll give Toulouse a good game. I mean, they're only one match behind them, one win behind them in the top 14, and they'll match Toulouse's power. So it's going to be fascinating. But from a Leinster point of view, obviously, it's really disappointing not to be dining at the top table again this year.
It certainly is, and France, always difficult to come at the best of times. Leinster have had a great recent record against French teams. They'd won their last 5 in a row against French sides, but the nature of a semi-final in France is always tough. It's going to mean just 1 out of 5 successive attempts away to French teams in the last 4. That, of course, back in 2012 against Clermont-Auvergne when they went on to win the title, but defeats since then against Toulouse in 2010, losing to Clermont as well in 2017, Toulon in 2015, and now it's going to be La Rochelle and John O'Gibbs and Ronan O'Gara in 2021. Leinster do have a penalty, 4 minutes to play here as Ross Byrne sends it down towards the corner. But realistically, they're going to need to score a try pretty much off first phase if they're going to set up some kind of grandstand finale.
Yeah, Leinster need to score 3 times, which isn't going to happen. 2 converted tries and a penalty in 3 minutes. Just showed Johnny Claxton, who's the fitness coach for La Rochelle, who worked with John O'Gibbs and Joe Schmidt. He's in La Rochelle now on the big screen. He's done a great job getting these big men fit enough to be able to play with this kind of pace and power for 80 minutes.
Free kick Leinster off that line out, and they managed to carry from Jack Conan and get back in field, and Scott Fardy. And Leinster 5 metres out from the La Rochelle try line, advantage being played in their favour. They're working their way out towards the far touchline, and Ross Byrne in the end dummies the La Rochelle defence and gets in for a try, and he's sprinting back towards the 22 because he's going to need to take a conversion as quick as he possibly can with 3 minutes on the clock. Leinster have their second try of the game. It is 32 points to 16 at the moment as we just wait for the points to be added on for that try. 32-21. Ross Byrne isn't hanging around with this conversion attempt and strikes it well and puts it between the posts. So Leinster cut the gap. There's 2.5 minutes to play, but it is still a 9-point match. They need to score twice inside the next 2.5 minutes, and that, Bernard, as nice as the try was, it's looking very unlikely.
Yeah, a nice try for Ross Byrne, but you have to feel it's a bit of consolation. La Rochelle gave away a couple of penalties at the breakdown. They know they're in a great position, and Leinster threw it, cautioned to win, did a couple of quick taps, and eventually got over a good dummy from Ross Byrne. But yeah, the chances of scoring twice in 2 minutes, it's hard to see.
Yeah, it would be one of the all-time great Irish rugby stories, I think, if it was to happen. But look, the kick is played back in towards deep into Leinster territory as Jack Conan carries, and Leinster just trying to get the ball as wide as they can and create anything. But Ryan Baird is swallowed up whole by Will Skelton, who holds up the ball, and the maul is formed, and La Rochelle have turned it over, and this is a chance for them to finish this off in style. They've numbers outside. If Victor Vito can find Raymond Rule, he does, but Rule knocks it on, and the ball is bobbled into touch. And that would have been the perfect ending from a La Rochelle point of view. And Bernard, it was your man there, Will Skelton, with a massive turnover.
Yeah, just Leinster trying to run from their own line, which obviously they have to do. And there was James Treacy ran a bad line. Ryan Baird couldn't get the pass a little bit wider, and he got held up, choked, and the ball taken off him. So and from that, actually, Victor Vito could have just given the ball to Rule and he would have been in the corner, but he decided to take the challenge and try and offload, and it didn't go to hand. But yeah, that's it now. I mean, there's an injury, there's a minute and 15 seconds left, but it's game over.
While we're down with a stoppage here and the clock is stopped with just over a minute to go, we obviously haven't had too much of an opportunity while the game was going on to talk about the prospect of Ronan O'Gara back in another Heineken Champions Cup final. I know we've been at pains as well to say before the game the impact John O'Gibbs has on all of this as well, but if Ronan O'Gara was to be able to have the first significant piece of silverware since joining La Rochelle against Toulouse in 3 weeks' time, it will be some story.
No, it'll be unbelievable for him. I mean, he loves the European Cup, and he's a big fan of the top 14 now. Obviously, he's been in France so long, and to win a top 14 with La Rochelle would be amazing. But to add to the 2 European Cups that he won in Munster, with a team like La Rochelle, who they're not. They don't have a track record in Europe like Toulouse or Clermont or Toulon, so it would be a huge honour for him. I think everyone in Ireland will look at Toulouse. Have a lot of fans in Ireland, but I think now a lot of people will follow La Rochelle and hope Rog gets the trophy.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if a few yellow and black jerseys don't pop up in Limerick and Cork as Luke McGrath picks off the back of that scrum and breaks nicely down the blind side. But we're into the final minute, 45 seconds left to play, and Leinster's Heineken Champions Cup journey is going to be over for another season. They're 9 points behind, and as you can imagine, scoring twice inside 30 seconds is nigh on impossible. Penalty coming for Leinster, and we're going to come back for it. But realistically now we're into the final 30 seconds and just seeing out time, because La Rochelle are going to be booking their place in the Heineken Champions Cup final against Toulouse, the 4-time champions, on Saturday, May 22nd at Twickenham Stadium, where hopefully, Bernard, as well, it looks like we're going to have a crowd watching.
Yeah, it seems to be. They're selling tickets anyway, but 2 French teams going to London. Look, it would have been great for us to be there, but we can't have any complaints. I think, again, it just shows that this is the Achilles heel for Irish rugby. I know we beat England in the last game of the Six Nations, who are a big, powerful side, but in general over the last couple of years, when we come up against teams with this kind of profile, we struggle, and we just see Leinster there again at the breakdown, just not being able to deal with the threat. And La Rochelle are going to finish with a penalty and game over into a final, which is some achievement for them.
Yeah, penalty for La Rochelle right on the Leinster 22. It was Ed Byrne who took the ball into contact. He was swallowed whole, and we wait for La Rochelle to just boot the ball out of play, but they are going through to the Heineken Champions Cup final because the clock is in the red. They're leading by 32 points to 23. With the ball in their hands, the penalty. They're convincing Ohio West to have a kick at goal, but I'm not sure what the point in that is. If they just want to pile the misery on Leinster even further. Or Jules Plisson, I should say, rather than Ohio West. Plisson is on it. He just tips the ball up and just boots it out of play. And La Rochelle are through to the Heineken Champions Cup semi-final. Leinster's journey is over. They have been beaten by Ronan O'Gara and their former colleague John O'Gibbs. It is La Rochelle who go through to face Toulouse in the Heineken Champions Cup final. We'll have the thoughts of Bernard Jackman a little bit later on in the evening on OTB Sports and on Off the Ball. But until then, from here at the Stade Marcel Deflandre, it is finished La Rochelle 32, Leinster 23.
Thanks very much, Neil Treacy and Bernard Jackman there, watching that defeat to La Rochelle. A disappointment for Leinster this afternoon. They'll have to wait another season to get another star on that jersey. We have torn up the running order this afternoon. There's no beating around the bush. The Liverpool versus Manchester United game, the Liverpool at Manchester United game is not going to happen at 4:30 or any time the next little while, I should say. It should be 25 minutes old at this point. It obviously isn't. It hasn't kicked off. The fan protest outside Old Trafford spilled into the stadium, and naturally everything got held up. The question now is whether or not the game gets played today. There has yet to be an announcement from the Premier League around that. So the running order, as I say, out the window, but we will be joined by Miguel Delaney in the 5 to 6 hour. He's been keeping an eye on everything that's been happening. We will get the thoughts of Brian Kerr, who was due to be on commentary duty today. We will hear from Gary Neville, we will hear from Roy Keane, we will hear from Jamie Carragher, we will hear from Daniel Harris as well a little bit later on. And on top of all of that, we will get Bernard Jackman's collected thoughts on that defeat to La Rochelle by Leinster this afternoon. So a load coming your way between 5 and 7 this evening, despite the fact that we're not going to have live Premier League commentary. We'll chat to you in a few.
La Rochelle versus Leinster, live from Stade Marcel Deflandre.
On Off the Ball,